Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to Comicbook Team Up, where RJ from the Fourth Age and myself, we talk about comics and go off topic and talk about embarrassing things. How you doing, RJ?
I'm doing good.
How's everything up there in the Great White North?
Actually, we have less snow than you, John. I can tell you right now, and it's hovering around the freezing mark, so we're doing pretty good.
Oh, it's funny because at work today we were like, "Hey, it's warm, it's 32 degrees," but it's been so cold for the past 2 weeks that we're working in buildings without walls and stuff. So the fact that 32 degrees, we're like, "Hey, it's not bad." Shows you how bad it is that we've gotten used to it. It's bitter cold, and I'm down by Jamaica Bay, so it's just wind off the bay right into your face. It's freezing.
You got snow piled everywhere and garbage piled everywhere.
Yeah. It snowed. It garbaged. I gotta say that this mayor, the new mayor of New York, Mandani, he's doing a good job reducing the homeless population.
Bombsicles all over the place, apparently too.
Yeah. So far, 16 dead homeless people because that's the warmth of collectivism for you. Yeah. The garbage hasn't been collected since before the snowstorm, and a guy charged a police officer with a knife. The police shot the guy, and the mayor went to the crazy person's family's house and talked bad about the cops. So buckle up, everybody. New York's going to be fun. The best is yet to come. And at the risk of getting political, I just found out today that what are the odds that Jeffrey Epstein won $83 million in the lottery?
Yeah, I connected the first two of those ideas, John. Did you know that apparently he also set up a personal party for Zoran Mondami's mother at one point?
Right. Rumors were that they were dating at one point. What are the odds? Good. What are the odds? What are the odds that this guy, Jeffrey Epstein, his may or may not, like the rumors are saying that that's his father, his real father. What are the odds that the child of a woman that he dated comes out of nowhere and becomes the mayor, and he won the lottery? Nobody's going to jail. Nobody's going to jail. I mean, this guy has influences to win the lottery. What are the odds? Just makes me think, meteor from space, get here soon. If you saw my pictures I put on Twitter, I'm working way underground right now. I'm in a bunker. I'm surviving. Just
I have to say, we'll take a different tack here for a second.
Sure.
After our discussion last week about Sabusima, I pulled out, what have you been reading this week? I pulled out my Magic and started rereading that miniseries.
Cool.
And also at the same time, I ran across the Immortal Dr. Fate, which is Keith Giffen's miniseries for Dr. Fate, which
that's J.F.D. Mateus writing it, I think.
No, it was I don't know. He might have wrote some of them, but I think it's Gooseby I can't remember. There's two different writers.
I remember there was like a 4-issue series in prestige format.
Yep, it was Baxter Paper. Yep.
Yeah, I remember those. Those are fun. I remember. This is one of the things I love about comic books. As soon as you said that, I remember having a stack of Dr. Fate comics. Me and my friends rented a house out in the Hamptons. It was before I went to college. We rented a summer house, and we just had like 40 people, just mattresses on the floor. They had a gross, disgusting basement in this house. And we bought a dehumidifier. We all chipped in, bought a dehumidifier, just ran it for like a day, and then literally like scrubbed the floors with bleach and everything, like demold and we just threw mattresses all over the basement. And me and my friends lived in the basement, and then one of us worked with this one girl, and all of her friends lived upstairs, and they were like, "We're not going downstairs, it's gross." And then like halfway through the summer, they were like, "Oh, it's nice down here. Can we?" We're like, "No, stay." But anyway, I just remember because they would go home. I lived out there for the summer. I got a job at a gas station, and so me and Phil had the house all week long, but everybody else just came up for the weekends. And I remember just sitting on the couch after work, reading that stack of Dr. Fate comics that that Immortal Dr. Fate led into a monthly series. And it just brought back pleasant memories. That's one of the things I like about comics, is it takes me back to where I was when I first read them.
That reminds me, I think you're right. It's the ongoing series that came after the Immortal Dr. Fate that DeMatteis did.
Right,
if
right.
I remember correctly.
Yes. Hey, Ryan Banks, he was just on my channel last night. My wife likes your comic. She was checking it out. She likes the premise. Who else we got here? We got George Morales. How you doing? Tony Grigo, what are your thoughts on Keir Starmer getting busted with the knowledge of Peter Mendes? I don't. The guy's everywhere. The guy's everywhere. Why? He's a supervillain. This is a confirmation. This is like we got Klaus Schwab, we got the Rothschilds, and we got Jeffrey Epstein. This is the Legion of Doom. Unfortunately, we don't have superheroes.
I don't know a whole lot about the Keir Starmer part of it, but one of the videos that I watched, I don't know, it was like Tim Pool or something like that. The comment I put was, everybody's asking the wrong questions. They're asking, how did all this happen? They should be asking, what island are these people going to now?
Right. Who's taking care of this now? Who's taking care of this now? I mean, I'm of the opinion, if this guy had the influence to win the lottery, his children of people that he once may or may not dated are mayors, stuff like. I'm starting to since COVID, I was always a conspiracy theory guy, but since COVID, I don't believe anything anymore. I doubt this guy's even dead.
Well, on the whole supervillain thing, it's supposedly he was trying to create basically a master race with his children. Supposedly.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I mean, at the risk of getting demonetized now, I've been reading all of those things. Everybody's talking about white supremacy. It's the wrong ethnic group supremacy. Right? The one group you're not allowed to criticize. And it's funny. Oh, he's working for Putin. Putin was like the one guy who has nothing to do with this guy. And guy at work was like, Trump's name is. I was like, yeah, but context matters. Like, somebody called the FBI and ranted off a list of insane things about Trump, and it even says unverified nonsense. Yeah, so technically Trump's name is mentioned in these, but it's not coming from Epstein. It's coming from some random person on the phone, just along JD Vance and Clarence Thomas. It was like a laundry list of all the conservatives. So anyway. What's
the name? The funny thing is,
he's okay, guys. I just lost my channel. Jeffrey Epstein. His girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, was one of the founders of Mossad, and that's it. This is how Israel controls the United States.
What's the name of the guy who does the comic channel? He used to work for Disney, and he does. I can't remember his name. I haven't watched his channel in so long. He has people on there all the time, like actual comic pros. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No, not at all.
I'm scrolling through my feed, see if it'll pop up. It's like Perch. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Perch.
So Perch, a couple of weeks ago, put a community post up with a picture of him and Epstein going, honestly, guys, I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, this he has a ranch, the Zorro Estates, and he has like an LLL, what is it, a business. He incorporated it, so that business won $83 million. What are the odds? I made my pull list, the comic book today. While making, I saw that they were doing a new Fury of Fire. So, however, it'll be written by Jeff Lemire. Yeah, Jeff Lemire. What did he write? He wrote Straight Bullets, which I actually like. And I can understand it's not everybody's cup of tea, but Straight Bullets to me is reminiscent of 80s black and white indie comics. So I don't know. I still have a soft spot for 80s black and white indie comics, but Jeff Lemire doing mainstream comics, I'm not too crazy about. And I always get him mixed up with who's the guy that writes I can't even think of the name of it now. They're like the Justice League, but they got trapped in another dimension. That's gonna drive me nuts. But it'll come to me sooner or later. And I'll just shout it out randomly. But yeah, this Epstein is that, and then turning out that like Amber Heard was one of his women, and Rachel Evan Wood. It's all of these virtue signaling freaks. Oh, did you see Billy? What's her name? Billie Eilish said, "We're all living on stolen land. There's nobody illegal in stolen." And now that tribe is suing to take her mansion. You know,
I did see that.
yeah, so I think it's funny. And there's a eviction law firm in LA that's taking the case pro bono. And then some British journalists just tried to just walk into her house. And you're like,
you shouldn't laugh that one off too much, because up here in Canada they've already started to in Vancouver, and they're trying to take over half a province in the East Coast. The native bands, basically the people. Like, I do this stuff, or used to do this stuff for a living. Part of the research that I do would be land titles and stuff like that. Anyways, but the people who live in that place in Vancouver, like, their land is no longer theirs. I mean, they can't sell it. Right. You can't sell your own home. I don't know what exactly they're doing with trying to fix this entire thing, but if you don't have the crown, or the government, basically, up here it's crown, saying that we will guarantee your right to title for the property that you own, then the entire thing is just a wash. I mean, the country's gone.
Yeah. Now, I'm kind of rooting for Alberta to either become independent or join the United States. I wanted to join the United States because they will have 2 more conservative senators, and a couple more conservative House of Representatives. Or is Alberta's conservative still liberal for America?
Yeah, no, they're conservative. They're the Texas of Canada.
Okay,
they're 98. They vote like 98% conservative.
Oh, good. Oklahoma has been dealing with this tribal land dispute. Yeah. That's. I saw a meme and it made me laugh, but it was just some blue-haired freak like, nobody's illegal on stolen land, and then an Indian goes, "Oh, so you're all going to leave and give it back to us?" They're like, "No, we're going to import 1 million more Indians to live here." And the Indian's like, "How does that help me?" Like, the American Indian, we're gonna bring Africans here, and the American Indian's like, "How does that help me?" So your solution to stealing our land is to bring more foreigners. Okay, liberal. I never thought liberals made much sense. Oh, by the way, Vazvez says Lemire could write, but he always makes heroes gay at one point or another. Feel free to steal this idea, because this is an idea that I had that I've been laughing at all day, but I'm not going to do it. But maybe I will do it someday. But I want to make the Fruit Bat basically a gay Superman. So he commit to the bit. Just make gay Batman. He'll be the Fruit Bat, and he'll swing around through San Francisco fighting crime and stopping gay bashing and stuff like that. Come on, guys! I want to retire. Construction is hard work. If the Fruit Bat gets me to be able to retire early.
There's the comedy troupe. They were Irish, Foil Arms and Hog. They do skits about what if certain things threw a party, right? And one of them was, what if vegetables threw a party, and the tomato was trying to get into the party, and they're saying, no, you're a fruit, you're not a vegetable, you can't come in here, right? And he tries to storm the gate, and he goes, security, we have a fruit down here trying to get in.
Fruit bats are huge, though. Yeah, well, he'll be big. He'll be the ultimate Batman.
I gotta say, when I've seen the pictures of the vampire bats in their native habitat, I mean, like in the countries where they live, you can see where the idea of vampires has come from. They're just huge, especially they're hanging upside down, like 3/4 the size of a man sometimes, and they're mammals, so their connection to the whole, let's just say, lascivious nature of vampires with women kind of comes out sometimes in the pictures of these things that they show you.
And I forget what bat it is, but the flying fox is huge. But I don't know how big fruit bats are, but I just think it would be funny to make a comic book. The Fruit Bat. Just commit to the bit. You want to make Batman gay? Let's go.
That's one of the things that I'm, you're always talking about make good names. I always just go through random stuff with animal names, and I think that would make a good character.
Oh, it's funny that you said that, because in my role playing games, a character, for about 10 years now, I had a female uh, Wolverine ripoff called the Honey Badger, and she was like tough, and she was lascivious. Is that the right word? You know what I mean? She has a high sex drive and everything, and she was a fun non-player character. But then Marvel made a character called the Honey Badger, and I don't know if she's still around or not. I'm like, oh, ever since that video, the Honey Badger don't give a shit. That funny. I was like, oh, that's a fun name for an animal. I made a Wolverine ripoff, but a female Wolverine ripoff. And then I wanted to change the name, so I was literally looking up other words for the same type of animal, and I saw Rattel. And then the guy was on my channel. He has a comic called Rattel. He's in French. He's in French Quebec. I'm like, oh man. So me and him were going back and forth off camera, and I came up with another name, but it's an animal-based name that's even better because it ties into Greek mythology. But I love that. I love doing sometimes a little bit of trouble causes you to come up with a better character because and I'm not going to spoil it. She's going to be debuting in a story called The Misfits. A bunch of misfit superheroes. They have odd powers, so they're like going to be my X-Men. But anyway, this is a better character now because I found out Marvel took the name, and then this guy took an even better name, and then I had to do research. But I'm with you. Sometimes there's some cool animals that just aren't. Like yesterday, I had Ryan Banks. I don't know if he's in the chat tonight. He always watches us, but he had a cat character with wings, and he called it the leopard. And I was like, but leopards don't have wings, And then he's explaining his theory, and all I could think of is Griffin. Like that character should be called Griffin. Griffin has a lion's head and wings, and now I'm like, I think I want to make up like a Griffin villain, like a lion, almost like an angelic flaming sword kind of guy. I don't know. I have fun coming up with names like that.
Did you ever have anybody from Honey Badger Radio on your channel?
No,
Honey Badger. She originally she did. Well, Honey Badger Radio is like a men's rights activist, which I always thought was really funny that Marvel chose the name Honey Badger when it's been around under that. Basically guys for a while. Anyways, I think the main lady who does Honey Badger had indie comics like far back as, I don't know, like 2005, stuff like that. And she got canceled like way early before anybody else. And she has stacks and stacks. Like she had planned to go to Comic-Cons, sell her comic, and then they canceled her. And now for the last, 10, 15 years, she's had boxes and boxes of her comic just sitting in her garage.
Oh, really? If you have any contact information, this is somebody I'd be interesting to talk to. This I didn't know. I've been purposely making my YouTube circle smaller and smaller and smaller. Like I would like my audience to get bigger. Don't get me wrong, but like I don't know. Like somewhere around New Year's, I was just like I started calling people that I follow and everything. I left a lot of Discord groups, things like that. Just the internet's just getting on my nerves, Every time a ping goes off, I'm like a slave to my phone. What group is it? And then I see it's about anime or video games that I'm not even interested in. So
it's funny. Every once in a while, like I post things on X just because it's something to do during the day to take a 5-second break. Plus the fact that I want to do comic stuff, and that's why I got into Immortal Dr. Fate. I was going through, I want to post a comic thing, so I posted Immortal Dr. Fate, a couple pages from it, and I was like, I should go get that out of my stack of comics and read it again, which I don't know where. I only got a couple of them. I don't know where the rest of them went to for my stack. Anyways, but one of the thing that usually hits the most, and every 6 months or so, I get people just sharing like crazy, is make comic women beautiful again. And I did the Valkyrie one from 2005. There's a Valkyrie cover, and people are just retweeting like that like crazy. And it's always the make women beautiful, comic women beautiful again, that just takes off every once in a while, and it shoots my subscribers up by like 100.
Yeah, I posted something political, and I got a bunch of followers on Twitter, which if you follow me on Twitter, thank you. But Twitter to me is an ancillary for this, for my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That's what, like, Twitter is the herald. This is Galactus. That's the way I look at it. So I got a lot of people following me on Twitter. I'm like, come watch me talk about comic books. Watch me make a fool out of myself in front of RJ. Come on. But I don't know. I guess right now everybody's outraged. And I don't blame them. I'm actually like having like mad dreams, like not like how the kids say, but like angry dreams about what's going on in the world right now. It's just like, come on, we got to do something. Like at this point, I'm ready for Sulla to come and have the reforms and redo the, like, is Trump Sulla or is JD Vance going to be Sulla? We need to do something. We need to fund.
On that, I got contacted by somebody from Twitter, just in case anybody wants to know. If anybody knows Benjamin Boyce, I will be on his channel tomorrow, I think at 3, no, probably 5. I can't remember. He's in Pacific time, so however the heck you translate Pacific time. So it's 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. What time is that? 11 o'clock Pacific Standard. Benjamin Boyce.
I don't even know who that is.
He does a lot of some religious stuff, but he does a lot of political things and also talks to creators and stuff like that. So I think we're going to be talking to heroes for an hour or so tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
If anybody wants to join, I'll put that up on my Twitter if anybody wants to find the link for it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. If you have the link, I'll put it here in the chat so people can see it. I just found out that all the Fawcett quality comic characters in Spirit are in public to be. Yeah, did you listen to Chuck Dixon today? Every Wednesday, Chuck Dixon puts out on his YouTube channel, Ask Chuck Dixon, and you can send him questions. I did a question last week, and that's one of the things he talked about is all quality comics and Will Eisner's Spirit. These are all public domain. And Edgar Rice Burroughs' early stuff is public domain, but they will sue you. Like they know they're going to lose, but they dissuade people by making them spend money for a loss, which should be illegal. I mean, you should automatically get your money back and then automatically countersue. But what do I know? I just want things to be just.
I would have to look that up. How in the world would the Spirit be? Because it's supposed to be, I think, 80 years after the creator's death, and Will Eisner didn't die until what, like the 80s?
I don't know. I think copyright law is weird, right? Don't you have to pursue it? Maybe he didn't pursue it, or maybe he gave it up. Because I know Bill Willingham just said that all of Fables is public domain. He just said it publicly, because he was mad at DC. They asked him to come back to do like a 6-issue revisal of Fables, and he did. But you write a script and you send it in, and months later you start getting your money. And I think there was a problem with the money. And he's like, what's going on? And he goes, we have a contract. We have a deal. And they're like, oh, everybody that you worked with made that contract is no longer at DC. This is a new DC. So he was just like, screw it. It's public domain. So
I'll have to apologize. I was wrong. He didn't die until 2005.
Oh, yeah. Will Eisner? Yes. He died. Yes, I remember when he died. I forgot the year, so I didn't say anything. But I remember when he died, so I knew it had to be like in the late 90s, 2000 or so. Because I was already a fan of his. He was. I wasn't a fan of his until like college. When I started doing research into the history of comic books. I didn't know who the Spirit was.
Some good comic book characters that I think are in the public domain would be the early Red Circle characters. You were talking about you made me think of it when you were talking about that fella making the character that was the leopard or something like that. But it made me think of what the heck? The cheetah. There's the cheetah, I think. Jaguar. That was it. Jaguar could imitate other animals. So it's basically Animal Man, but for Red Circle.
I love those Red Circle characters. The Fly, Jaguar, the Shield, the Hood. Yeah. What's his name? Comet? And Fly.
Oh, yes. Comet was there too.
Yeah, DC forgot to do the rights on Will Eisner's characters. Disney's the one that's causing all the problems. And Disney will sue you. Like I still get, even though every month I tell myself I'm going to stop buying Eric Larson Savage Dragon. I still buy it because I'm anal retentive, and he has Mickey Mouse is like a recurring character, and Mickey Mouse is like trying to sexually abuse Dragon's wife, and they're going through a lawsuit in the comic. I'm like, dude, you're playing with fire. You know, I've never a fan of Disney, but I know enough to not to poke that bear. You know, you will never see any Disney characters in my comics. I'm not stupid. I don't need to be sued. And then this month he had a Popeye in it. He was actually respectful to Popeye.
I've actually seen people starting to use the original Mickey Mouse in television commercials now. So there's a law firm in Boston who is putting out television commercials about injury, personal injury, all that kind of thing. He's got Steamboat Willie driving down the road and then he crashes into somebody. So, you know, you got normal people starting to use these things.
George Morales, man, the writer and artist who did Fable must be best friends together. Well, Bill Willingham created Elementals, and he wrote and drew it. And then Ironwood, Bill Willingham wrote and drew it. And Ironwood was an X-rated fantasy comic that actually wasn't that bad. He got to Coventry, that was pretty bad. And then and Fables, I think Willingham only drew like 1 or 2 issues. He doesn't like to draw too much. He says he's too lazy to draw anymore. So he just does commissions. But what's his name? Mike Buckingham was the main artist on Fables. But Bill Willingham's one of my favorite artists. Mickey Mouse is a good-hearted hero. He didn't ask. Yeah, you know, I got nothing against Mickey Mouse. You know, I just remember, like, as kids, we would, like, who would win, like, who's the better character, Bugs Bunny and Woody Woodpecker. And there was always some girl that said Mickey Mouse. I was like, what did Mickey Mouse ever do? Bugs Bunny is just so much better than Mickey Mouse. He has better stories. He's funnier. He's more sarcastic. Like, Mickey Mouse is just like, oh, no, there's water everywhere. Oh, no. I don't know. I like Donald Duck better than Mickey Mouse.
Although I have to say, if anybody wants some good information about creating, go through the Disney stuff for comics, and it's all online. There's basically just leaflets that they used to put out for their creators about how to do a comic, how to do a shot, and what you need to put in your shot, and how everything works. You want to make sure that things don't look like they're floating in air. They have some really good stuff, and they're probably from like the 40s or 50s. So it's really interesting stuff for creators.
I bought this like a year ago, and I finally sat and read it. I'm like, it's been sitting over here on the floor. I'm like, I'm tripping over this thing. So let me read it so I can go put it on my shelf. You know, I have a shelf of hardcovers. So this is the Carl Banks is Donald Duck. This is number 1 because I have to read them in order. So this is like these were good. At first I was like, I don't like this, but then I got it. You know, it's good fun. It's old-fashioned storytelling in that every story is its own thing without continuity. Like, you know, one issue that they just bought a boat and they're going around the world and they get lost. And then the next issue is like they live in Texas. No, you know what I mean? No references to the other. Each stories are self-contained. The way like Bugs Bunny cartoon used to be. But the art was good, and it's like a graphic novel every story. So you know, I could see why people really liked it. I liked it enough that someday I'll get the volume 2. They're kind of pricey, so you know I'll get it eventually.
It's funny because we used to have comics that we would just destroy. Donald Duck and Scrooge McDuck and stuff like that were with the piles of Archies and things like that. But we would just destroy them. We didn't care. It wasn't like our superhero comics where we want to put them in bags and stuff like that. They'd just be thrown in a box or whatever else. But they're consistently the comics that generation after generation read in our house. I mean, somebody gave them to us because they were too early for us, me and my brothers, and they read them, and they gave them to us and we read them, and my kids who don't read comics read them, and all these, like, it's that kind of stuff that actually gets people into comics.
Yeah. I'm amazed that Disney doesn't make comics. Like, does anybody else? Does Disney make comics? I'm just not aware of it. Because every month I go down the discount comic book service and I click I pay, and then 3 months later I get my, you know what I mean? So I once a month I get a box of comics in the mail, but I never see Disney comics. It's such a shame that Disney doesn't make comics, or maybe they do and I just don't know about it.
As far as I know, after the late 80s, when they tried to be a comic publisher, they swore off ever trying to be a publisher again.
It's probably a minuscule amount of money for their purposes. What about Oswald? I don't know who Oswald is. You think Disney would make comic books at least to have it in Disneylands, in Disney World and whatever, Euro Disney, just on the shelf, or Disney stores, right? Aren't there Disney stores in malls? So RJ, Tony, who's a regular on my It's Clobbering Time on Friday nights. This Friday, we're going to talk about what's the best decade in comics. So since you're always welcome to come, it's an open invite. So what do you think is your favorite decade of comics?
You don't even have to ask, Tony. It's the 80s. Definitely the 80s.
I knew you were going to say that. And I'm not going to say anything because watch Friday and find out what I have to say.
I didn't get to see the Clobbering Time. Was that the one where you pit two characters against each other? Because I know you did one with Dr. Fate and Doctor Strange.
Yes,
so
yes.
What was your final decision on that one?
Dr. Fate wins. He's got, a basic, the Lord of Order downloaded into his skull, so whereas Doctor Strange is more of a typical human sorcerer, but
I gotta say though, reading the Immortal Dr. Fate, the Keith Giffen stuff, it's the art is just amazing. He is really on top of his game in that series because he used a lot of shadow, and you see things half in and half out of the shadow. There's a lot of silhouettes and things like that. But whereas Keith Giffen, if you think about his art, it's pretty angular usually. But when he does the spells for Dr. Fate, everything is in a circle. Everything's got this curve to it, which is otherworldly compared to everything else he puts on the panel, which is angular.
I have a magician character that's my Dr. Fate, that's my Doctor Strange, called the Metaphysician. And he has a unique way of casting spells. And he's debuting in Giant Size Punchline #1 from Antarctic Press. So there's going to be a small campaign, and then he'll be in comic book stores. But unfortunately, I was like, hey, Bill Williams, who does Punchline, he just asked me to do it. And I was so freaked out because I had to include his character, and I was doing somebody else. And then it had to be 12 pages that I just didn't put in all the description. But I have a system of how his magic is cast. So when I do his story, which I don't know when I'll get around to actually publishing it, I have the way the magic system works, and I got to explain it. It's good. I got to drive poor Renzo crazy drawing this. It's funny because just today he sent me a page, and in the page the patriarch stops bullets, and Renzo drew all the bullets hitting the ground, and they were all mushroomed out. And I was like, no, that he telekinetically robs them of their velocity, so they just kind of it's like the Matrix. They just slowed down and fell, and he was like, okay. He's so good. And I'm such a. do you bother your Renzo or Nick? You know what I mean? You got to change that.
Renzo likes when I do that, so I do it more with Renzo than anybody else because Renzo likes to have as much information as humanly possible.
Yes. He wants. I give him a big script, and it's amazing. Very rarely do I have to ask him to fix anything. There was two fixes so far in Patriarch, but he does it on layers. So one of them, I was just like, these kids are smiling. They should be in the back. They can't see what they're smiling at. So he just took somebody from the background and went like that. He was literally fixed it in 45 seconds. I'm like, oh, this is incredible. Yeah. So this question, but what are my thoughts on the Frank Miller Spirit film? RJ? Tony wants to know.
I really didn't like the Spirit film that much. It was kind of boring, if you ask me.
I remember seeing the commercial for it, and I was so excited. I was so excited. I remember I was at work and there was another guy who was interested in comic books. And I was like, you got to see this movie. We got to see it. And then he went to the movies and I didn't. And he was so pissed at me. He's like, I took my wife and my kid to see that piece of garbage film. And he was so, because you have no credit as far as, and I was like, oh my God, it was that bad. And then I finally watched it on cable and I was like, I think I turned it off after like 5 minutes. You know, it's like, how did Frank Miller just fundamentally get the spirit wrong?
Well, the funny thing is, it's a comic book movie when comic book movies actually could be good, but it's one that would probably be produced at the level of 1982, where you're laughing at the entire thing half the time.
Yeah, like what he tried to do was do like all the spirit stories. Like he introduced like the Siren's character, and he should have just picked one of those 8-page stories, or maybe like a 4-week story, a 4-part story, and make a movie just about that. That's what he should have done. Instead,
if that had taken off, that would have actually probably still be going. If it had been a good film, they would be sucking it dry still today, because there are parts of Europe that are still publishing spirit stories. I think in like Denmark, there's guys, because it might be in the public domain or it might not. They might have the rights to publish it, but they're still publishing, literally still publishing spirit stories today.
Yeah. Oswald the Rabbit. Disney created him before Mickey. It was Mickey who took. I never heard of Oswald. I got to check it out. But it's the translation of Italian ones. I don't know what you're talking about. That's the one with Billy Zane and Samuel. Not Billy Zane. The guy who's the cannibal. The guy who's now. He I don't know if he got arrested, or detained. But he was like sending people messages that he wanted to kill and eat people. What do you want me to say? This is Hollywood. This is Epstein before Epstein. Oh my God. I just saw another thing on Twitter today that actually made my stomach churn. But it said, remember in the 80s, they were putting all kids on the backs of milk cartons? Like, have you seen, R.J. Shaw? Do you know where he went? And, and there's a picture of a kid. He goes, and then do you remember a couple of years later, they made all the celebrities got milk with the milk mustaches?
Right.
He goes, they were making fun of us and we didn't know it. I'm like, oh my God, that hurt my stomach. I was like, is it true? You know what I mean? Like kids are on milk cartons, and then you got Tom Hanks with a milk mustache. Oh my God. The last movie I watched was Tomorrowland back 10 years ago. I gotta say, I don't watch movies that much either. Tomorrowland, is that with what's his name? I can't think of the actor's name. Star-Lord. I didn't like the DeMatteis Dr. Fate run. I found the relationship between the main child character and his 20-something-year-old stepmother to be weird. I remember that's this. Inza Nelson became Dr. Fate for a while, and then they would swap back and forth. It was one of the first times like they made a male superhero female, but at least it was a legit female. It wasn't. And Inza Nelson, she had a relationship with Dr. Fate since the 30s, so it didn't bother me as much as just, oops, you're now a female.
And they made her fairly curvy, I'll give you that.
Why can't I think Sean McManus drew her on a cover, and I remember, like, my mom can't see this. I mean, the Disney Scrooge Mickey, they outsourced mostly they translate Italian. Yeah, they're still doing. Chuck Dixon said that they're still making new Mickey Mouse stories in Italy. He's super popular in Italy. I don't know. Yeah, Dan Got Milk. I remember that. Yeah, Sound Engraver knows what I'm talking about. Tomorrowland had House MD in it. I don't know. George Clooney, yeah, he's supposedly he was helping Epstein get women too. And like the two female, like, is confusing. J.M. DeMatteis can get out there sometimes. Didn't know they were supposed to be doing what and when and why. Okay. There was they got a little too like Hindu-esque, like a lot of like trippy, whatever the word is. Did you see Deepak Chopra had to apologize for his relationship with Epstein?
No,
it's just like everybody. It's everybody. It's like. It's just like, okay, flood. Start the flood. I don't even get mad. I won't even get mad, God. Just start the flood. Oh, you can't flood again. Fire? you didn't say fire. Fire will work. Have a meteor come. Yep. Yeah, the world is doomed. And what do you want me to say? I'm just like, I'm at the point now where it's like, I'm done being disgusted. I'm just laughing at it. Just laughing, Gotta have a sense of humor.
This might be the cultural catalyst, maybe. You never know about, because there's a lot of shows and things like that which we grew up on, which nobody watches anymore, which should have been in syndication forever and ever. Like, I don't know, the Cosby Show, or what the heck was the name of that one where the guy was a pastor and he had a whole bunch of children? It's like, I can't remember. Wasn't 8 is enough. But anyways, but of course you get these.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. And that guy turned out to be a bad man. We'll leave it.
Yes,
at that. Yeah.
But they no longer show them because one actor, usually the main actor, got caught in something which nobody wants to talk about anymore. So they just memory hold them. But now you got so many actors in so many places actually just, in these letters to Epstein. I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if they're going to just memory hole everything now and we got to start fresh.
I always felt that, like, after the Cosby Show, this is me. Trust me. I always had a bad feeling for Bill Cosby, even as a kid. I was like, I don't trust this guy. It was just my spidey sense tinkled about him. But I feel bad for that Malcolm Jamal Warner. Like he was on the Cosby Show. He was probably a good guy. He drowned. His only scandal was he drowned. He wasn't a good swimmer. Way to help the stereotypes there, Malcolm. But he was just like, this is a major part of my income is the syndication rights for the Cosby Show. He's like, I'm screwed, and I didn't do anything wrong. So I kind of felt bad for him. Finding out Urkel did something wrong, and then like the sister, you know what I mean, or whatever. The brother was like, I didn't do nothing wrong. Urkel didn't do anything wrong. I'm just making an example. Yeah, Seventh Heaven. That's the name of the show. Yeah, they had all pretty girls on that show. John has become the hot dog vendor from the Crow movie. Maybe a flood like the Bible. I still got to see the Crow. Tony's been trying to get me to read the comics. I got to get the comics. I haven't been buying any back issues, so maybe I'll put in an order for back issues one of these days. The Dalai Lama was on the list. Was he on the? Now, just because you were mentioned in the Epstein files, like, context is key. Sometimes they called up and they're like, yeah, we got to get Trump to come here. Like Elon Musk is in the files, but Elon Musk, they were like, hey, you want to come to our party? We're gonna have pizza and hot dogs, and he's just like, nah, I just ate. And they're like, no, we're gonna have girls, and it's like, oh no, I want to work on my rockets. So technically, his name is mentioned, but he's not doing anything wrong. And Trump was mentioned because somebody called up the FBI and made a crazy claim about Trump. Whether you like Trump or not, you don't need to make up stuff about him.
I was just thinking about comic book characters and movies like the Spirit that they're talking about. Really, well, I wouldn't say the best movie in the world, but it's an interesting watch, and I really like the visuals on it. It looks like it should have been a comic book character. Is Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow?
Oh my God, RJ! I wanted to like that movie. I got excited. I loved the looks of it. I saw the stills of it. I love the costumes. Angelina Jolie as that female pilot. It just looks, and it was just so boring.
Yeah,
it was just because my belief is they were all acting in front of a green screen, and the actors are trained to act with other people. There was nothing to interact to. It had like no gravitas or anything. You know what I mean? It just looked like bored actors in front of a screen. But I really, really wanted to like it.
I watch it every once in a while because for me, everything is visual. Everything is visual. And I could just watch that on mute just to get the visuals from it, to get ideas about characters and stuff like that, especially because I'm going back to the 40s and the 30s.
I'm with you on that, RJ. I wish it could have been better. Everything about that movie except the movie was good. Sound Engraver says, did they prove Cosby was guilty? Just curious, because I never followed up. I actually said, unfortunately, it's all hearsay. It's 35 years. There's no evidence. They convicted him, put him in jail, and then they reversed his conviction and erased his felony. So he's, he has technically and he could set himself up for a lawsuit. It was just a witch hunt. Now, I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying 35 years later, it was he said, she said. And to me, that's the shadow of a doubt. I remember saying this at work, and guys were getting mad at me. I'm just like, and it was funny because all the black guys were like, yeah, listen to John. I'm like, I don't like Cosby. There's something about him. I'll never forget his son was killed in a bad drug deal. And they went at the news, they showed Cosby's face, and he had like a weird expression on his face. And I just remember saying to it was my mother at the time, I said, that's not the face of a man going through grief. That's the face of a mafia don looking to plot revenge. And she was like, yeah. And I don't know. I just never liked the guy. But due process is a system. We have to, it's not the best system. It's the best flawed system we got. It's a flawed system, but it's better than all the other systems.
Gotta say though, you must have watched Fat Albert when you were a kid, John.
Yeah. I like everybody because you didn't see Cosby, you just heard all the voices and stuff. But I hated the part when he was acting out like an idiot. Although I did have his album and I thought it was funny as a kid. The Dalai Lama was on the list 14 times. Well, I will say this, that the Dalai Lama has very good publicity because the Buddhist monks used to torture and oppress the villagers for food. They didn't do any work. They literally went around torturing and oppressing the local people for food and money. And then when the Chinese government came over, they all fled and told us how they lived. And we believed them because we weren't going to believe the Chinese. So, you know what I mean? It was like, so they're no better than anybody else. I always like the Dalai Lama was talking one day, and he was talking about how you don't need money and stuff like that. And I just remember I said to my friend who was like, you see the Dalai Lama? I go, this guy has an assistant who wipes his ass. This guy doesn't do any work. It's easy for him. He's worth how many millions of dollars to say money's, it's all these rich people like John Lennon saying money's nothing. All right, go live like a pauper. Go be a farmer. Go work on a construction site and see how little money matters. I never liked the Dalai Lama either. I'm sorry. I like the Buddha. I like the original Buddha, but I don't like the Dalai Lama.
You know what's really weird, John? Okay, this is the really weird part of everything that's going on with, immigration and all this. Everybody trying to force internationalism on everybody. But I was just in my local Walmart, and I was looking for something very specific. I was just going to go print off some pictures, right? It's the only place I could do it. And I walked by the candy aisle, and they have stuff out for Easter already. But next to Easter stuff, they got a whole bunch of like chocolate Buddhas and things like that with all the they're basically trying to say, oh, it's not just Easter, I'm thinking to myself, oh, people just give it up, will you? I mean, it drove me nuts.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I don't know what to say. Again, I'm like obsessed with these Epstein files. Now there's rumors that he may have been the one that started Bitcoin. Like, this guy sounds like the most influential guy in the 20th century, or at least the last half of the 20th or the 21st century, whatever century we're in right now. There was something else he did. Now they're trying to convince us that he was a Russian agent. That was the only thing he's not. He's not a Russian agent. He's a founding member of Mossad. Come on, knock it off. This is my last channel.
If anybody goes through the Epstein files and sees any connections to Marvel, you just send them my way, and I'll take a little look at that.
Wow. I don't know. Marvel, I could see through Hollywood. I could see through Disney.
Well, the guy that what's Amanat. I mean, he was the most influential person in Hollywood that nobody knew the name of,
Oh,
right?
yes,
And he's the one who got his sister basically hired at Marvel, and then she took it over, and she was in there because their cousin was Huma Abedin, who ran the Clinton campaign for Hillary Clinton, and was like,
oh yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on there. Just to let everybody know.
that video is what drew me to your channel, by the way. That Sana Amanat video. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember somebody put a comment on it. I can't remember who it was. One of my regular contributors and commenters, but he basically said, I was just bored at what you were saying. I thought it was half interesting. And then you said the name Huma Abedin, and I spit out the milk that I was drinking.
I was saying this to a guy at work today. I said, after the Epstein, like, goy, we're going after the goy, you know. I really do think that white Christians are the most persecuted people on earth right now. You know.
Yeah, that'd be pretty precise if you ask me.
If you heard the Steve Bannon interview, Epstein comes off as stupid as he claims that the Greek philosophers were smart because they didn't know how to. Oh, they weren't smart. Yeah, he doesn't have. He just had to be charming and ruthless. You know what I mean? That's that. Some of the most dumbest people I know are charming. You know, like, this guy's a moron, but he's charming. And they're like, the equivalent is like a beautiful woman who's just like sexy and everything like that, but she's stupid. But you're like, you don't mind. Beauty and charm will really get you far. Like, I think that this guy was just willing to stomach all of this horrible stuff, you know, and maybe he could just, he kept his mouth shut. Like he literally said it, the Epstein files, that he worked for the Rothschilds. You know,
he's basically the purple man,
right? Yeah. So what? He was just the middleman. You know, he was a math teacher, and next thing you know, he's a billionaire. You know, he didn't invent nothing. He didn't. You know, he was just willing to do, like, he had no shame. You know what I mean? They found a perfect guy who was just like willing to do this horrible stuff. And I'm parsing my words. You know, just because, and that's all it took. He's like a patsy, you know. And now I don't even think he's dead. I mean, the guards both guards happened to fall asleep, and all the video cameras just happened to go off. And then they got erased. You know, come on. Like I said, before COVID, I was always suspicious. Now, like, literally, didn't the government say there were space aliens? And now I'm like, now there's no space aliens because the government said there was. You know. In your opinion, is there a good way to make a remake of what? Just anything in general? Yeah, obviously, in general, you can make a good remake. I'm trying to think, like, the Body Snatchers, the second movie is better than the first. The Thing, the second movie is better than the first. You can make good remakes, but I would rather not. At this point, I'd rather there be original stuff. But you know,
honestly, we'll get off track even more, but apparently Iron Lung is supposed to be a really good movie, and it's just, what's his name, Markiplier from YouTube, gathering up some money and making a movie which is basically an indie movie, and it's making he put $3 million into production. It's already made 18 million.
Well, what is this?
I mean,
I have no idea what this is. Like I said,
Lung, it's a new movie coming out. It's based on a video game. So it's in the future, and basically I think all the stars have disappeared, and it's just dead space, and they got to go from planet to planet to try to find resources. Anyways, but I think that's the future of entertainment right there. I mean, the indie with money backing it, that's the future of entertainment.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny that Tony Gregor said, like, a week ago I wouldn't have agreed. Now, after these Epstein files, I'm just like, I hate you all. I've never liked you, Hollywood. Now I'm actively, like, when they had that the writer's strike in Hollywood, I was cheering it on until a couple of my friends who, like, pulled me aside. They're like, I'm out of work because of this. You know, like, I got a couple of literal friends that they either do storyboards, they do animations, or they write, and they're like, you know. So you're cheering on like me being homeless, and I'm like, yeah, I got carried away, but I don't. They go, and I understand you don't like the Hollywood, but these actors, it's like, okay, they could still storyboard, they could still write, and then let's bring back the animators. I don't want actors anymore. We'll make puppets or something. We'll entertain ourselves. We'll make comic books instead, because everybody, I can only name like two actors that everybody likes. Like we all like Keanu Reeves. He seems to be a genuinely nice guy. And what's his name? The guy who played George of the Jungle and Brendan Fraser, the Mummy. Those seem to be the only two act. I like Sydney Sweeney. I like the fact that she's like, I'm sexy, and these are my money makers, and I'm not going to say anything politic, and I'm going to cash out until I hit the wall. Like, I just love how unabashedly she's just like, I'm using my sexuality to make money while I can. There's something honest and refreshing about that.
What do you think about this idea, John? So basically, I can't remember who did a video about it that I watched not too long ago, a couple days ago. Basically saying that when the boomers go and we go, there'll be no such thing as brand recognition anymore, because nobody has the history with an entire brand like Marvel, or even just a celebrity anymore, just because of the internet, and everything is just so ubiquitous and out there all the time that brand recognition will no longer be a thing, and people will have to hopefully start using entertainment based on merit.
Okay, I see where you're going. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't think of that, but you got a point there. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm not going to just go see the movie because it's the next Marvel movie or the next DC movie. I'm going to go see the movie because it looks interesting.
Yeah, because millennials and Gen Alpha, they just don't have that. They're like, why would I go see this?
I'll go even a step further. Like, I'm going to go see that movie because it's got Nicolas Cage in it. Like, nowadays, maybe after this, it's like it's always going to be unknown actors. Why not? If it's going to be like you said, they'll probably get for the cheapest actors that they can. You know what I mean?
That's exactly. Well, I think they're restaffing like the Washington Post or something like that. And what they're doing is it's basically cost effective. It's, let's get these people who some people know about, not a whole lot, but if they're cheap enough and they'll work for us, that's the standard, right?
Yeah, and speaking of that, didn't the New York Post now is making a California Post or an LA Post? It's doing so well they're opening up another newspaper as which one is just laid off like a third of its staff or something.
I don't know. It might have been the New York Times.
I think it was the New York. Yeah, I forget what it was, but one of the liberal newspapers is closed down as a conservative paper is opening up. The internet may be rendered useless when it comes to the free market. Branding may be in the physical space and word of mouth. Yeah, I agree. Word of mouth. I don't know. Like, we guys were talking about the Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl Sunday this weekend. I don't even know. That's how little I care about sports. But not one of them. They're like, yeah, I'm not watching the halftime show. They all have something else like this this big Super Bowl spectacular and stuff like that, and nobody even cares about the Super Bowl because they're going out of the. I think this is like the last gasp of Jay-Z. Like, he's now synonymous with the Epstein files, and I think he picked a performer just to like piss us off. Did he know this was going to be his last gasp? I'm hoping it's his last gasp. The Washington Times let go of a third of its force. Okay, good. And I just saw today that J.D. Vance is heading up a California corruption team. Oh, please get Gavin Newsom. I want to see that guy crying. Lord of Brooklyn says, greetings. How are you? Greetings. Did you ever read Transmetropolitan? I could see you not reading that.
Is it based off of Metropolis? What's the black and white movie?
It was Warren Ellis being edgy, and it was set in like the near future, and there was two main stories: who killed Mia something Zapata, and then the presidential election. And the presidential election was between what his name was the Smiler, who looked exactly like Gavin Newsom, and he just smiled. And he, Spider Jerusalem, the journalist, he found out that he was just like a psycho. Like he is going to just mess with the country. The Smiler is what I think Mandani is, just an agent of chaos, just coming in to destroy by foreign agents. And the sitting president, who's just a corrupt piece of crap, I forget his name. He turns out to be the good guy because at least he wants there to be a coherent America so he could rob it. You know what I mean? That's. I think we're in transmetropolitan times. Is my point.
Definitely are in New York because that's what's going on right now. I mean, what's his name that left the mayor? He at the very least did his job according to the rules. The last mayor, what was his name?
Eric Adams.
Yes,
who is a liberal piece of crap as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But on his way out, he was giving parting shots to Mandani. He's like, he basically told New Yorkers, you get what you paid for. He's like, yeah. He even admitted it because I may not have been the best, but at least I kind of cared about New York, is what he said on the way out. And then him and Giuliani just said, we didn't have 16 deaths. We rounded up the homeless and brought them against their will to places. They were alive to be mad at us. But key word is they're alive. So what did Mandani do? He's handing out blankets with his name on it. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
I'm not even joking. They're giving out red blankets that say Mandani on them to the homeless people. That's their solution. I think he's making fun of us. Yes, it is, George. That's the comic. This is the comic. I could see people not liking it. I kind of fell out of my Warren Ellis edgy phase. Although Warren Ellis did nothing wrong. you know about that whole controversy, right?
I skim through it every
because right now Neil Gaiman is putting up a defense right now. I think Neil Gaiman is a big piece of crap. I mean, he's credibly accused, and he married that woman whose name I can't recall, who is a total piece of crap. But Warren Ellis, he had a message board, and all of these women were posting on the message board, and then Warren Ellis was private messaging them, I'm going to be at this convention. How about you meet me there? And they would spend the night in his hotel room doing what adults do. And then they would tell them his comic book ideas, and he blew them off. He didn't care about that. But the girls thought that he was going to make him a comic book star. He thought he was going to get some lovey-doveys. He got the lovey-doveys. They didn't become comic book stars. And then 20 years later, they all accused him. But nobody accused him of doing anything illegal. They were just like, he led me on. He hypnotized me. He promised me this. He promised me that. And they forced the guy to apologize and take classes. Dude, did you see Warren Ellis? He kind of looks like Uncle Fester. You banged Uncle Fester. You get what you deserve. He didn't do nothing wrong. He was a pig. He was a disgusting pig, but he didn't do anything wrong.
If memory serves, it's Warren Ellis's old message boards that screwed over the entire comic industry, because people like Kelly Sue DeConnick were the ones that started posting and became the moderators, and then got into comics, and then took over Marvel with Captain Marvel crap, Carl Manvers. And that was the beginning of the end for, the comics before that for the last couple of years weren't great, but you get Captain Marvel done by Soy Boy and Kelly Sue DeConnick. It's like
he was one of the moderators who would basically say there's a bunch of sluts in this forum.
Yeah.
And then later on, she's hosting a website, Victims of Warren Ellis. It's like, oh, you mean the sluts? The sluts? I'm getting mad. I'm actually not censoring my language in front of RJ. Usually I don't want to curse in front of RJ. The only way to turn the normies is to let the ultra libs have that's what I'm kind of hoping with New York. Like, like you got that drunken cousin that you just can't help, so you're just going to let him crash and then realize he's hit rock bottom. Like maybe now, like these socialists will see, New York has hit rock bottom. So basically, Warren Ellis was saying, better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. What he was saying was, it's better to have a corrupt person than a sociopath, because the sociopath, he didn't care. He just wanted to treat America like a toy and break it, like a twisted kid just breaking his toys for fun. Whereas the corrupt person wanted to make money. And in order for him to make money, there had to be a structure, there had to be infrastructure, there had to be systems in place. Both of them weren't preferable, but one was a little less destructive than the other. And that's kind of the way I feel about American politics. We are living in Warren Ellis's Transmetropolitan. Albuquerque's mayor was giving blankets and T-shirts with this. Well, it's one thing to give blankets and T-shirts. Oh, yeah, because you guys are cold there, too. Yeah. What is this? 4 months from now, Trump will find out about the blankets and say he'll give them Trump blankets, and we'll never hear about them again. I don't know. I just have to laugh. You know, it's all you can do. I'm at that point now where I'm just gonna like laugh to the happy house.
The really absurd thing about all the snow that you have and not being able to clean up the snow and therefore not be able to clean up the garbage and all that kind of stuff. And here I am looking at the snow going, that's not very much snow. For me anyways.
Yeah, well, think about it. You guys, you're in the wide open spaces. You know, New York with all those buildings and small streets, and then there's 900 cars. You know, a little bit of snow causes a lot of problems. It's funny. I'm working like in tunnels underneath the airport. I'm not supposed to take pictures, but I do anyway. And what it is, it's flood systems. It's really cool. So because you know the JFK is right near the bay, and if there's floods, the water's got to move someplace. So it's literal canals underneath, and then you know you're on slight inclines to guide the water to these pumps. And what we're doing is, you know, there's got to be lights for workers, there's got to be powers for convenience outlets, and there's got to be power for these pumps. And all of these pumps, since it's for water, that they have to be waterproof. So it's kind of cool and it's kind of scary because first off, there's like not even rats down there because there's no food. You know, there's not a lot of work, and it's so quiet. So of course we were blasting music just to hear the echoes and shouting at each other like idiots. And then I was like, I wonder if the Morlocks are down here. And the other two guys were like, they have no idea. Like, John's talking crazy. I'm like,
I'm sure you love the fact that I posted the cover of Amazing Spider-Man 151 while you're down in the tunnels.
Yeah.
Because that's the one where he's saying, I don't care if you flood the tunnels. I'm going to kill you.
Well, you know, in that particular, well, the one that it's based on, what's it, Spider-Man 39, I think, the famous the famous Steve Ditko one, where he's got the machine after he fights Dr. Octopus. You know, I look at that and I wonder if did Steve Ditko sneak down into the sewers, because it looks perfect. You know, it looks like Steve Ditko was familiar with the New York City sewer systems.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because I slightly remember something about Mr. A and the fact that someone also had said that the construction buildings that Mr. A is going through in his early comics was like dead on.
Yeah. I tell people, if you know what to look for, it's like obfuscated, it's hidden in plain sight. But there's entrances to the New York City tunnel systems everywhere in the city. So like next time, I don't go to the city unless I have to for work. But like if I ever decided to go to the city, like if I met you in the city, I'd be like, hey, RJ, you want to go in the tunnels? You know, and just show you have the entrances to all these tunnels.
Be like
I'd buy
the first university I ever went to. The entire thing was covered in tunnels. Everything was connected in tunnels, right? So it's the middle of the winter, and you know, February, people showing up to class with their, you know, slippers and pajamas on, because every last building in the entire university was connected through tunnels. Nobody ever went outside.
I did a lot of work for what the hell is the college in Manhattan? Columbia University. They have a famous tunnel system. And man, is it dark down there. You need your lights. But we went through the tunnel systems at Columbia University because now they use them for routes for power. And so, we're going through the tunnels at Columbia University. And then at the end of the tunnels, there's a room, like an office. Like, what the hell? It's like, it's just tunnels like you'd see in a Will Eisner, with the curved arches, the bricks, and streams of water and stuff like that on dirt floors. And then there's just an office with a door, and like a skeleton keyhole that you could look through, like you see in every teenage movie. With a woman's taking a shower in it, you know what I mean? But it's like, and the door just opens and it's just filled with files, just files. And then right in the middle of the room is the cyclotron that Albert Einstein used to do research for, and then there's graffiti on it. Yes, this is what Albert Einstein's actual. This is part of the Manhattan Project. And I'm like, did I just get cancer? Everybody's working. I'm like, do you guys know what this is? Like, no. I'm like, this is a cyclotron. What's that? The particle accelerator to help them do research. I mean, do we all have cancer now? It's just sitting right here. So we were, of course, going through this old papers and stuff like that. I wish I had my phone back then. I would have taken all those pictures. It was really cool.
John's given us the lowdown of spelunking in New York City.
Urban exploring. Urban exploring is fun. Do you know about this Amelia, RJ?
Oh yeah,
I get a kick out of her. I love Amelia. I just wish she didn't have purple hair, but that's you get what you get. But I love Amelia. I think that Amelia will do more good than all of these us righteously angry people preaching. You know what I mean? I think once you get to the level, like, I think that'll reach the normies more than anything else. Oh, speaking of which, did Starmer was rumored to be resigning? Did he resign?
I don't know. I don't know.
I gotta look on the news while we're talking. Did trending? Nope, I don't see anything. But he's got to be the most evil politician going right now. Like, my question, you know more about Britain than I do, because of Canada. Is he just like that evil on his own, or is King George? Because I am convinced King George is converted to Islam years and
King
years.
Charles.
What's that?
King Charles.
What did I say? George. Yeah, King Charles. Yeah, I hate him so much I don't even want to use his real name. But I believe that he is Islamic, that he converted, and he's telling Keir Starmer to like let the Muslims do whatever they want, because one guy raped a girl, a Muslim guy. He gets let out almost immediately. A white guy rapes a girl, 8 years in jail. It's like so blatant how they have just disregard for the native-born English people.
Yeah, what do they call them? Two-tier Keir, because it's one level of justice for the immigrants, another level of justice for the actual English people.
Yeah. So, I just saw something, and then Keir Starmer. Did he resign?
I'm waiting for someone, if they haven't already, to cross Amelia with Britannia, because she can be the new Britannia symbol for
a modern
England.
Yeah, and now they have a Bridget that they're making one for England, for Ireland. Like she's going like, we don't need any. I don't know. I like I say every week we talk about that. Nobody says that Nigeria is suffering from a lack of diversity. We don't need to flood Africa filled with Irish people, but it's so they have weaponized our tolerance against us. Ireland had the hatchet girl. What's the hatchet girl? No, that was Scotland. Scotland had the girl with the knives.
Yes.
Her. No, I didn't get cancer, but I did get superpowers. What powers did I get? Power to, I don't know, drink enormous amounts of coffee and still go to sleep.
You'll be well preserved. How's that?
Yeah. I could drink a pot of coffee and go right to bed. Uh, any comics you want to talk about? Anything you read this week?
Like I said, I read the Immortal, the copies of Immortal Dr. Fate that I have, plus the Magique. Those are the two miniseries that I pulled out.
My wife found these Kingstone comics. It's like biblical comics. So this is the Book of Revelations. And I think my expectations of it were a little different. I was like, oh, finally, they're going to explain the Book of Revelations. No, it's a literal book of... So if you ever read the Book of Revelations, it's all disjointed and it's hard to understand. So is the comic. But then again, it's exactly Revelations. But I like it's legit artists. You know, it's like what's his name? Bennett. You know, these are legit comic pros that are doing this. You know, they got like the 101 questions about the Bible. My wife got that one. The 12 apostles, the book of the prophets, Jonah. So far I'm enjoying these. So far I'm enjoying, and I got this week. This is this is Village Vigilantes 3.0, but they lost the trademark of Village Vigilantes, so they're going with the Mighty Protectors. I just the guy who created it was on my channel, but before that we had unpleasant encounters, so I've been avoiding this. But now I got a copy. I just want to see how the rules are, because I'm really toying with the idea, if my comic does well, of making my own role-playing system. You know, Heroic Tales role-playing game system. I have like basic ideas. I'll talk with like Andy Yang Yang Zhao about making rules and stuff. And then you got to come here and play, RJ. If I do, you got to come make up a character. John and RJ, when creating a hero based on animal, Wolverine is an example of using the animal as a symbol, but adding additional features such. Well, it depends on the animal. You know, like Wolverine. You know, a Wolverine is famous for being small, ferocious, and having claws, but Wolverines don't regenerate. You know what I mean? So, but it works for that character. Like, I'm trying to think, like, if you had like the Starfish, like that guy would be just Mr. Regeneration. Matter of fact, you could cut off his arm and another one would come. There's so many cool animal powers.
Well, we were just talking about this last week about my character Laughing Falcon, because the actual birds hunt snakes, and so they're resistant to poison and things like that. So it became part of the character, and you know, the name actually became part of the character as well, because he likes to laugh and things like that. And Cardinal. Again, the whole idea that I do with the Jays, it's all based, it's a takeoff off of the robins, but I use it as a bird instead. Every jay has a different, there's red jay and blue jay and gray jay and all that, and I took it off of each one of the birds to see what their powers would base. They don't have powers, what their skill set reflected. And Cardinal is the one, is like, Cardinal looks like a jay, but it's not really it's not a jay. They're herbivores, and as opposed to the carnivores of the jays. And you know, I use these elements, but I don't let the elements control the entire character when I build one like that.
Cool. In your comic, you know, you have Kit Fox, which is the you know, the Batman type, and then the Jays are his Robins. Do the Jays eventually like become their own heroes?
The whole point of the thing, I think I mentioned it a little bit on the back of the cards for the Jays. So basically, he has a group of these sidekicks, and they're vying for who's going to take up the mantle of Kit Fox when the current one actually has to retire.
Right. So one will become Kit Fox, and then will the other one become like, you know, like Falcon Boy, or you know, Dr. Eagle or something. Like,
yeah, basically.
They don't have to retire. They could become their own, like, you know, like one Robin became Red Hood and one Robin became Nightwing. A question: did Wolverine have regeneration from the start? Is that added on later on? Every Sunday I'm doing Sunday comics, and I've been doing the X-Men from the new X-Men from Giant Size X-Men 94, and I'm up to 125 now. And that's one of the things I'm pointing out is inconsistencies. Like Wolverine, as of 124, hasn't regenerated. And matter of fact, when they were in Japan, he says, I haven't been in Japan since I was a teen, since my teens, running around as a young punk kid. Now that's wrong, because Wolverine as a teen was in the Civil War era. So, it just shows you that they made up Wolverine over like Chris Claremont didn't have him crystallized and released stuff. They made up stuff as they went along. Same with Nightcrawler, same with all of them.
There's an interview for I can't remember who did the original story for the very first appearance of Wolverine in The Incredible Hulk. He basically built the character so that the claws were not actually a part of him. They were a part of the gloves that he had on. But he never, there's nothing in the book itself to contradict or to state that. He just stated it. That's what I was doing when I was writing it.
Clawman. He has one claw from every clawed animal. I have a guy. He'll show up sooner or later if I can continue to make comics. If you guys support me and back me, but he's going to be called the Mongrel, and he's like Animal Man, but not as pretty as Animal Man. So at one point he looked like a normal human, and then he transformed into a bear, and so he he turned it into a bear, but then he's like, oh, I need octopus whatever. So now he's like an octopus bear, and as he transforms, he's he has like a mongrel is like a mix of all the other animals and races or whatever. It's a derogatory term, but he's claiming it. So he'll have like a lobster claw, a bear hand, and then like fly antennas. You know what I mean? Like he's never like a purely one animal anymore. And if he turns into human, he'll have like a human head, but like a turtle back. So he's always, partially an animal and partially something else. Like it'll take, eventually he could turn back into human, but like it takes a long time. So in a fight, he's not just going to be a lobster and then a cricket. He'll be in the midst of transformation in the middle of a fight. So he looks like a mix of all the animals. I just acquired the Batman 66 Omnibus, and I've been enjoying that. I love the Batman TV show. I haven't read the comics, but I got the DVDs, and it comes with a little Batmobile and everything. I love that. I was thinking about making a villain based on the Andean condor, making him a Hulk-like character. Oh, wow. A Hulk-like character with wings? I have me and my friends, we play our role-playing game, and we had a cowboy adventure, and I had a character called the Buzzard, and the Buzzard was a thrall of a vampire. So he like, I kind of took the idea from the game Vampire, but a vampire would turn people into ghouls, and like they would force feed them blood, but they didn't die. So they got like half vampiric powers, but they weren't really dead. And what these ghouls did is they craved flesh, and so a vampire would eat somebody, kill them, and then these ghouls would come and devour the corpses to get rid of the evidence. But they were meek, timid little servants. And every once in a while they would give too much, and they would have like a monstrous like bodyguard. And that's what he was, but for some reason he retained his intelligence. So long story short, he was going around seeking revenge and literally eating the dead. He was killing vampires, but he would jump on the vampire and rip the vampire. And then the Goon came out with the character almost exactly the same. So I was trying to think, like, I want to do this Western story, so I got to change him from the Buzzard. And I was thinking of the Condor, but that doesn't work, because now he has to be a big guy with wings and everything. Like nobody, because a condor is a vulture, but nobody thinks of a condor as a vulture. I can't call him the Vulture, because then you'll think of that. So I was thinking of the coyote, because coyotes also eat, dead things, scavengers. But then he would have to be like a jokey Joker kind of guy, which I don't like. I don't know, but you just made me think of that.
Sidetrack, John. Do you remember the 1980 movie Condor Man? They made a comic out of that, actually, too.
Yeah, wasn't that a Jack Ritter?
No, I don't think it was Jack Ritter. Condor Man. No, I'm pretty sure. No, it's Michael Crawford, I think.
Okay.
He
Did you
looked like Jack Ritter.
did you hear they're making a Greatest American Hero comics? Like
Oh,
taking
really?
Yeah, they just continuing where the show ended.
The show ended pretty much where it started. I don't, if I remember correctly, he still had no idea how to actually control his powers.
Right, because that was the gimmick of the show. Once he controlled his powers, the show was over. It was like moonlighting. Once Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis got together, there was no point to the show anymore. Will they or won't they? Some shows have a limited premise, like Star Wars. When I say that, Star Wars is World War II in space. Once the war ends, there's no point to Star Wars anymore. Sorry, everybody. Between that and my Mossad comments, I'm really helping my channel tonight. Missing Link Man. Yeah, that's RJ Sasquatch. I'm trying to think any other good stuff that I got this week. My stack of comics. I read Manchild. This was excellent. This is a crowdfunded comic by Nandor Fox. When he was on my channel, we would talk about it. I'm like, oh no, it sounds remarkable, like Eddie is doomed. But it's about a guy who just works in a comic book store and can't deal with life outside of comic. It's really, really good. I know there's twists and turns in it. He's such a good writer.
Kind of looks like Megalith.
I've noticed that both Disney remake the Del Toro's adaptation of Pinocchio, the protagonist doesn't transform into a real boy but remains a puppet. What do you think this choice means? I didn't see it. Was it good? Was it good? My grandfather always liked Pinocchio because it's Italian, but Pinocchio always scared me. I don't know what it is. And then you're hearing about like they capturing little boys and bringing them to an island back in Disney time. But Pinocchio, something about Pinocchio that always scared me. Didn't they do a spin-off of The Greatest American Hero? They made it a woman. I think it was canceled. I don't know. Never heard of it. Would you agree that the Galactic Empire in Star Wars wasn't that bad? The problem with Star Wars is they told us the Empire was bad, but they didn't really show us how bad it was. Like in Harry Potter, we saw when Voldemort took over the school how bad it was going to be under Voldemort. Star Wars, like, we saw Tatooine day-to-day life, but Tatooine, it was understood it was a piece of crap planet that was basically ruled by the Hutts. But like, where was the Empire? And then they blew up Alderaan.
I don't know. It's complete obliteration of Alderaan just because they want to make a statement. So
I was changing my logic and then they blew up Alderaan. So I guess everything I said wasn't that true. Yeah, they blew up Alderaan. The Empire wasn't that friendly in Andor. Yes, Andor, they're showing us the day-to-day life. Oh, I just saw this on the internet. Somebody did an AI, and it showed Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru getting killed. They showed that, it's so good. It was like, oh my God, this is like the first AI thing I've ever seen that had like an emotional impact on me. I was like, oh man, like as soon as I saw what it was, I was like, oh no, because we've all seen that smoking corpse as a kid, which is why I will say that kids can handle scary stuff. The first Star Wars movie scared the crap out of me. We take it for granted, but I was in third grade and I knew nothing about Star Wars. My brother took me to see it, and I was freaking out when R2-D2 was going through the Jawas, and then the Jawa jumped out and shot him. I was terrified. I was a little kid, and then Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, a smoking corpse. They didn't pull punches. To me, Star Wars was one good movie. Empire Strikes Back was just as good. It was scary. They didn't pull punches. And then up until Return of the Jedi, when they left Jabba's palace, after that was the end of Star Wars. So Star Wars was 2.5 good movies because they pandered to children in Return of the Jedi. They made cute little Ewoks, and they softened it. Star Wars was they pulled no punches. They didn't pander. On the bright side of what's going on, I think more indie stuff is going to start. Indie's been taking the cake and I hope so. I mean, I have a personal stake in it. RJ has a personal stake in it, but I think it's never been easier to make your own stuff. To the barrier to entry is almost non-existent. It just takes a little bit of dedication and some work. What do you think, RJ?
Well, the funny thing is, he's talking about gaming.
Oh.
They have just come out with new AI that you can literally create your own video games on. So how long? And there's a couple of gaming companies who are looking at the tea leaves and basically saying, we had planned to make this MMORPG and we're just going to stop. Like, we're halfway done and we're going to stop because by the time we finish it, people will be able to generate their own MMOs. So we won't make any money.
I don't know much about video games. I purposely stay away from video games because I know me. I'd get addicted and I would do nothing. I would be getting fired and divorced if I got into video games. Yeah, Obi-Wan cut a guy's arm off in the scary bar, and then we kind of gloss over it, but Han Solo was a drug smuggling murderer in the first movie, and his arc was he had to change it, like to the point when the Millennium Falcon shot that TIE fighter away and saved Luke. The whole theater cheered because we bought it. We thought Han was leaving. Now we watch it like, oh, that was a good guy. But no, we thought he was a bad guy and he left. He got his money and he left. Him coming back really was a surprise the first time you saw that movie, if you knew nothing about it. Yeah. That's why they didn't need to make a Solo movie. We knew everything. We knew everything we got by the end of the first bar scene. That's everything we needed to know about Obi-Wan, about Han Solo. I should play.
I would say the answer to the question is this: it's going to come down to good storytelling, because that's the one thing. Like, AI can generate, it will be able to generate entire books, entire comics, entire video games, but it doesn't have the human heart in order to make a good story. That's going to be the new part of entertainment that people are going to have to get to, is you got to write a good story.
Yeah. And that's my biggest concern when I make my comics is the storytelling. I have one of my artists, I'm like, there's 4 panels on this page, and one panel just, it's like one of these things is not like the other, and I think I might have hurt his feelings, but I was like, this panel needs to be redone. I don't know if you could, because he draws on paper. I was like, could you just like take a piece of white paper and just put over it and redraw that panel? But you know what I mean? Like, because without storytelling, like a comic book, even though I'm a writer, the art is all important. And a comic book without storytelling is a bad comic book. I don't care if it's Jim Lee, John Byrne, or whatever, but if the storytelling doesn't work, and what I mean by the storytelling is this panel leads to this panel, which leads to this panel, which leads to this panel in a logical, flowing manner, so that there's no confusion or dissonance in the mind of the reader. Without that, it's a bad comic book. So that is like the thing that I'm the harshest on. So call me out if you're ever confused reading my comic. You could say they're bad. You could say they make no sense. You could say the plot failed or whatever, the characters were like, but that's not fine. I want you to like all that stuff. But if you tell me that you were confused, that means I fundamentally failed.
It happened to me in one of my books. I'm not going to mention which book it was or who the artist was, but they were doing the art for it, and there was one panel that just did not belong there. And, I have got to the point where I would have already gone far enough along that I couldn't remove the panel anymore. So what I did was, since it was not a large panel, was I removed the entire panel, wrote an extra line of dialogue, which was explanation for, it's a caption box, which is part of the story because there's caption boxes, guys telling the story. And I replaced the art in that panel with the caption box.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was a few times that I didn't notice it, and then, like I said, the art should tell most of the story, and then the words are there to fill in the gaps that you can't tell without the word. Like the G.I. Joe silent comic to me is probably like the purest form of comics. You didn't need any words to tell that story. That is a great example of storytelling. Like I'm coming around to Mike Barron's way of thinking. Less amount of words in a comic book is probably the best, but he strips it down to the bare minimum. I don't like that. I do think that people, when they talk, we have a tendency to use more words than are needed, which is definitely a problem, because sometimes, like now that I'm writing comic scripts, whenever I'm at work, I listen to what people are saying, and I'm like, he could have said that more efficiently, but we don't talk efficiently. But I'm meandering my point. My point is, if the storytelling is not good, that just means I got to put more words, to clean up a mistake. And sometimes I don't notice that at first. Like, oh man, okay, it's too late. Like once it's been colored, I'm not gonna fix it, because we do the layouts, and then Renzo will finish it, and then I'll color it, and then I'll do the word balloons. And so if you ever see there's a lot of word balloons over here, or a lot of that means I had to fix the storytelling.
I can't remember who it was that I was interviewing. I think it might have been Graham Nolan. And I asked, have you ever done a silent comic book? And he just brushed it away with the back of his hand. Like, no, that's a waste. He's basically said, I'm never going to do anything like that. It's a waste of my time. But to me, if you can make a book that's a silent comic book where the art tells the entire story, I'm with you. That would be a perfect comic book.
It's funny because just today, I'm not going to tell you which character, but I have the ending of one of my characters, and I think it's they're gonna find like he's putting together, he's solving a mystery, and he's gonna solve the mystery, and he leaves his journal there, and then the person opens up the journal and like reads it, and like, oh my god. And then the last couple of pages are just going to be, I can't say without spoiling, but it's going to be silent, him showing what the conclusion to everything that he's been looking for. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I in my mind, it's going to be very impactful, and it's going to be like 4 or 5 silent pages, because there's nobody there to him to talk to. You get all the information, and then the realization. I don't know. I can't wait to tell it. Please support me so I can tell these stories.
Again, I say this every once in a while, but I think one of, if not, it's the best fight scene in all of comics, as far as I'm concerned, is Wolverine and Silver Samurai, and it's page after page after page of no dialogue whatsoever. It's just fighting. That's it, and everything makes sense. Like, I mean, at the very least, you can connect in your mind from one panel to the other, how they turn around, how they strike.
Yeah, that's Paul Smith. That's a perfect example of storytelling. I know exactly I went and looked it up after first time you talked about it. You're absolutely right. So Tony's asked us, any thoughts of the new Wonder Man series? I didn't see it. I don't, it could be great, could be bad. I wouldn't know. I have a zero tolerance for race swapping, gender swapping,
Wonder Man is one of those characters that was my character back in the day. When they first came out with Wonder Man, the series. I remember I was at like the county fair, and I was just getting bored. I went to the 7-Eleven next to the fairgrounds, and Wonder Man #1 was sitting there. I sat there, read it, bought every last comic for Wonder Man after that.
Yeah,
I don't want him to be destroyed, so I'm never going to watch this.
I was always fascinated by Wonder Man, like this incredibly powerful being constructed out of energy that was lie dormant for so long, and he thought that that's what death was like. So he was terrified of dying, laying dormant for all eternity, and so he had this like fear of death and hesitation, and then apparently the show is just about him being an arrogant actor. It doesn't matter,
John, I'll give you I'm going to go on way. Okay. This is a sidetrack that's way off to the side. Okay.
Sure.
But I really think that would make like the Wonder Man story strikes a nerve with me. Like in a very impactful way. I won't say a bad way, but here's one of the reasons why I think that nihilism is so rampant in our culture, or at the very least has a strong foothold. And it's because of anesthesia, because it's basically you're going into that Wonder Man deep sleep because your body has memory that's apart from your mind. And what anesthesia does, it doesn't stop the pain. It stops your brain from feeling the pain, but your body remembers the pain and your mind is trapped in darkness. So everybody must, you wake up and you think, I was trapped in darkness and yet there was nothing but pain. And then people equate that with, that's what death is going to be like. It's nothingness and pain at the same time. And that's the Wonder Man story to me. That, again, as you just described, that's the Wonder Man story. And I think that that's something that people need to explore in the future, whether or not the way we deal with surgery and things like that is actually affecting the way that our culture sees death and pain and everything else.
Interesting. That's why I like talking to you. You always make me think about stuff. I don't know. I'm done with the Marvel Universe movies until like I get an overwhelming amount of people whose opinions I respect telling me that they're good. But I at the end of Endgame, I was like, that's it. I'm satisfied. And then it was halfway through Loki that I was like, I think I'm done. It was just like Loki acted like a wuss. And then it was the Sylvia show co-starring wuss Loki. Meanwhile, you watch the first Avengers movie, Loki was arrogant. He was a good bad guy. He was triumphant. Even in his defeats, he was arrogant and crafty, and you couldn't underestimate him. And now he's just this like wuss. I don't know. I'm done. Like what they did.
When they do things like that, I just go in my mind back to the old Norse legends, which were extremely politically incorrect to say the least. I think at one point, Thor wanted to make fun of Loki, so he tied his private parts to a goat and then hit the goat so it would take off. It's like, these are the kind of stories that they're telling in the old Norse mythology. not stuff like that.
Odin had Loki's mouth sewed shut, and then as punishment, they used his own intestines and tied him to a rock and had a serpent drip acid onto his face. I love. I'm working on a Norse mythology story, and it's and I want to keep all of the gross and inappropriateness to it, and then at the same time, I'm telling the story of Saint Nicholas. And I'm keeping all the gross and inappropriate stuff about St. Nicholas too, So
there's some fun parts where, what is it like? Everybody gets drunk and pretends to be trees so that you can't see them.
Like, I almost gave away a major plot point. What do I think about Nicki Minaj now being a conservative darling? I think good for her. She found Jesus. She's I saw glimpses of it a while ago when she said she caught her daughter watching her own videos and she was ashamed, and I was like, she's growing up. I think for the most part, rap music is a psyop to cause problems in the black community. It's keeping them stunted, thinking of the wrong things, keeping people distracted by materialism and everything. So good for her. I don't care. I don't need Nicki Minaj, but maybe if the left hates a black person that doesn't follow the script, so maybe this will cause more people to stand up and talk, but I don't know.
It's funny you say that, John, because I think that's the exact same thing that happened to Mel Gibson. He basically got to a point where his kids were growing up and he said, I don't want my kids watching my old movies. Like, I don't want them watching the things that I've been in. And so he started to change his ways.
I what's her name? Why can't I think of her name? The actress from Titanic, Kate Winslet. She said she's like, I can't do nudity anymore. Like that girl is just like taking her clothes off. And the director's like, this you don't need to be naked. She's like, I know. And she's just taking her clothes. That woman was like naked in every freaking movie. And she said, now I have kids and they're going to be watching movies. They see your mom. And I was like, oh, good for her. And then like 2 years later, she's naked again. I guess, so hopefully Nicki Minaj, hopefully this change stuck. I am always shocked to find a conservative person in the entertainment world. I'm like, oh, really? That guy? I never would have guessed. Like Adam Sandler. Who would have thought? Larry Hama did that silent issue of G.I. Joe back in the 80s. Yeah, I can't remember, but it was Snake Eyes. Yep. I remember that. To me, that's like the purest form of comics. Yep, this is the same one.
Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, was that the issue you're talking about?
Yeah. The Doomsday Superman fight was all art, right? I remember there being words in the comic. My problem is Doomsday has this power that nobody noticed, that nobody referenced. He has the power to make whoever he's fighting incredibly stupid because Superman forgot his powers. Superman, one of Superman's greatest powers is he can fly. That's why I always give the tactical advantage to Superman when he's fighting the Hulk. I don't care how strong the Hulk can get. Superman could fly and Hulk can't. Hulk jumps. So Superman's fighting Doomsday. They're punching it out. All of a sudden, Superman realizes this is not like any other fight. And Superman grabs Doomsday. They fly to the moon and fight someplace where there's not going to be collateral damage, or they're flying in space, whatever they're fighting a fight. And all Superman needs to do is break free of Doomsday. And then Doomsday just hurtles for all eternity. But it was editorial. That to me, why I did that commercial. That's why I did that question to Chuck Dixon last week. Have you ever written a story where the plot dictated how the characters have to behave, otherwise the plot breaks down? Or do you let your characters behave the way they normally would, plot be damned, and then that makes unnecessary, interesting drama in your comics? And of course, we know what Chuck picked. And the example that I gave was Superman had to act stupid in order for the Doomsday story to make sense or go the way they wanted it to go. Because if Superman acted like Superman, Doomsday wouldn't have been that much of a threat. I got that issue to art. I always wonder why Wanda liked Vision more than Wonder Woman. Yeah, because Wanda's crazy. They even said it in a few comics that John Byrne is. She was traumatized as a kid. That's why she always went for the cool emotion. She knew what to expect with Vision. Yeah, I'm not seeing the new Odyssey. I'm tired of, like I said, I have a zero tolerance, and that goes the other way around too. If they make Anastasia the Spider starring Nicolas Cage, I'm not seeing that either. Unless
I saw, what was it, Denzel somebody put up, I think it was on X, Denzel Washington saying we need more black actors to play these good black roles, and then somebody coming and saying, yeah, and I'm Greek, and how come nobody's saying that about the Greek actors, and why is Helena Troy being swapped out for whatever, right? It's like, yeah.
I'm not 100% like you don't need to be Greek to be Achilles, but you just have to be passable. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like skin color is skin color. Like if they make a Jesus movie and they make like a Aryan looking blue-eyed blonde Jesus guy, that's gonna pull me out of it too, because like I do like the actor that plays him in that show, The Chosen, and I'm sure that's probably more whitewashed than Jesus really was. But to me, that's like a good compromise look for Jesus. He kind of looks ethnically Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, but at the same time, he could be European. I don't know. He looks good. The only thing we know is that Jesus wasn't Asian and he wasn't sub-Saharan African. Other than that, and he probably wasn't a blue-eyed blonde either.
I think the race swap for Helena Troy is the biggest woke message that has been around for even decades at this point. Why? Because Helena Troy is supposed to be the most beautiful woman who has ever lived. That's why they fought the war over this woman and making her this black African woman. They're saying this is what beauty is now. I'm sorry, white people, Greek people, Europeans, you no longer have any connection to beauty. That's the message right there.
I didn't think of it that way, but again, you always give me stuff to think about, because I do think she's beautiful. I'm not gonna lie. I think she's a beautiful woman, but she's not Helen of Troy. There's, as far as I know, there's no black Africans in Greek mythology. There's maybe in Andromache, they said that she's the queen of Ethiopia, but not Andromache. I'm getting the Cassiopeia. She might be the queen of Ethiopia, but some people are saying that what the Greeks thought was Ethiopia was really near Joppa, and it wasn't the Ethiopians. Whatever. But as far as I know, that's the only black woman in Greek mythology. So if why tell the story if you're going to change it? That just bothers me. And they don't want to make African stories, because if they wanted to make African stories, they would. It would be the hottest thing in the world. I think right now you're going to tell me that if they took some African mythology that we're not familiar with, and Hollywood made it would be the biggest thing. Every freaking liberal in the world would like it, and I think conservatives would like it if it was a well done, good movie. I'm sure some cool shape changing dragons. I assume there's mythical, heroic African myths that I don't know about that would just be amazing on the big screen. I'll go see that. I don't, because it's, and then cast it appropriately. There's got to be Indian. Oh my God, there's got to be amazing mythological or historical Indian movies that could do well in Hollywood. Just cast them appropriately. Like Chuck Dixon says that he had a comic called Way of the Rat, which was set in like a fantasy version of China. It was a good comic. I read the comic. And they actually had John Darabont was going to direct it. That's how close it got. And Chuck Dixon had to write a white character in the movie. And he was like, why? He goes, it's all Chinese. It's set in China. But for the opposite reason, they wanted to have a white guy to sell to a white author. And Chuck Dixon's like, we don't need this character in this movie. But he was like, I want the movie made. So he listened to Hollywood, and it still didn't get made.
I think, honestly, John, the thing is that this will be my experience, and I've said this probably a couple of times on my channel, about mythology and how it actually works. Even within European mythologies, it's the Greek mythology that took over because it has a basic structure that we're used to with a beginning, middle, and an end. You don't get that in Norse mythology. You don't get that in Celtic mythology. Celtic mythology, nobody really cares about Celtic mythology anymore. There was a resurgence of it around the late 1800s, early 1900s, and there was trying to retell the stories, but it never really got made into a whole lot of entertainment because you can't make it into a 3-act story. The whole point of Norse mythology, why it had a resurgence at the same time, but actually came into popular culture, I think has a lot to do with Jack Kirby and the changing of the Norse mythology into something completely different than its actual source material. That being said, I've read a lot of Indian mythology from American Indians and things like that, and I would assume that the African mythology would be the same. It is gibberish and ununderstandable because not only the way that they tell the story, but they didn't have a written language, and the disconnect between the things that happened and basic information for their culture that you have to understand in order to connect one thing to another is just missing, and would not be there for a modern audience, for Hollywood or somebody making a television show to change it into it. It wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't translate at all.
I do know that American culture owes a lot to Greek and Roman, so I think and the way the Greek and Roman told stories bubble down to the way we tell stories. And I think the Norse mythology stories, they're just epic stories of badass guys going into fighting monsters and stuff like that. Everybody loves that. The Celtic, I just couldn't get into it. So I think you got a point there. That maybe it was the way they told stories, and I know it was the names, the unpronounceable names really prevented me. But like, the Chinese stories, they didn't seem like, when I read Chinese mythology, it almost seemed like parables and lessons, and not so much great epic duels of like Norse mythology or superhero stories like the Greek mythology. And I started getting into Mayans. Mayans got some pretty cool stuff, but that would be gruesome. Oh man, to accurately to Mayan mythology. Oh man, I don't think we're ready for that.
I can remember reading Eastern Native American mythology, and it wasn't until they had to put the Coles notes basically in the side margins, and you had to read the introduction for a lot of things to understand, because one of the things, I would just go read the story and it's like, I can't understand what's going on here. One of the things for their mythology was there's no such thing as destruction. So you get somebody that's basically, there was a trickster character, and he got crushed by the side of a mountain and then turned into a bunch of flies. It's like, that makes no sense. Well, it makes no sense because in their culture, nothing can be completely destroyed, so it had to turn into something else, couldn't just die, right? So there's a lot of backstory explanation that is very specific to those cultures that needs to be either put in as part of the story, which there's so much I don't know if that's possible, or there has to be a Coles notes where you're reading along with it in order to understand what's going on with the story.
Yeah, I know, like, some Japanese stories like literally translate them into America without change. It's bizarre, like, what are they like? There's some stuff that's lost in translation,
But at the very least, for stuff like Japanese, I mean, the Magnificent Seven is the Japanese story. I mean, right? Seven Samurai. It's exactly a translation into American Old West story, so that's possible. But
I wonder though, like, because you got the Magnificent Seven, which is based on the Seven Samurai, but there's the Greek mythology, Seven Against Thebes. I wonder, did the Japanese take the Seven Against Thebes and turn it to, how old is the story of the Seven Samurais? Like, I know it's a movie from the 40s and 50s, but is it based on old Japanese, or did the Japanese base it on a Greek myth?
That one I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, because the Seven Against Thebes, the Seven Samurais, the Magnificent Seven, I always put them in the same category. Hey, Ryan was just on my channel last night. We had a fun talk. Ryan, as a black man, I agree that gangster rap music was created specifically to destroy the black community and keep the persistentful decreasing. There you go. I got backup. I got backup over here. There are beautiful black women, but the ones they cast in movies now are either mediocre. Oh man, my wife is always like, you're always looking at these black women because they're beautiful. Women are. I don't care what race, what flavor you are. A beautiful woman is a beautiful woman, and I'm not outraged about, I can't pronounce her name, the woman who's going to play Helen of Troy, because she is beautiful. I to me, she's objectively beautiful. I just don't think now you got me thinking they're doing this on purpose to like change the definition of beauty. I mean, that woman who played Juliet, that black woman who played Juliet in that last production, she was a legitimately ugly woman to play. She was black and ugly to play Juliet. Come on. Now, I give a little bit of latitude when it comes to Shakespeare, because there's just a big tradition of reimagining Shakespeare. You know what I mean? Like an all black version of Shakespeare, that's fine with me. You know what I mean? But like, at least cast a good looking woman. I'm sorry. Anybody offended by that, I apologize. She's legitimately ugly. If you like her, that's good for you. Somebody's got to love the ugly women too. And I'm glad you were there. Somebody jump on the fat women. Somebody jump on the ugly women. Every pot has a lid. Beowulf, I love Beowulf. Name one beautiful. Vanessa Williams. Vanessa Williams is beautiful. I do think this actress is beautiful. I don't know who Tamara Dobson is. Odyssey is a particular story about specific. Yes, and to cast everybody else that looks pretty decent, and then the main character that is a message. And she's supposed to be of Sparta. Like, who is her father? She's not Spartan, but you know what I mean. And then all of Greece is named after her, like the Hellenes, the Hellenic stories. Yeah. Now you start to make me. I just thought it was just sloppy woke casting, but now I'm thinking it really is like to mess with people.
The Lacedaemonians were extremely xenophobic, and they did not allow anybody to have status in their city state that wasn't a Spartan. So it just doesn't track.
Yeah. I thought Pam, not now. Ooh, Pam Grier now. She looks like a kaiju, but she was sexy back at the time. There was another. There's too many. I'm just getting sleepy that I can't think. I mean, of course, there's beautiful black women, but unfortunately, it seems like it's not the thing, and it's they're casting like these uglier and uglier, especially with black women. And I think people are getting mad at like Sydney Sweeney. She's just classically beautiful. And then like they'll take a picture of her without makeup and be like, look at this dog. I'm like, are you kidding me? That would have been the hottest girl in my high school, even without the makeup. Knock it off. Stop. They're what did Judge Judy, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, or don't believe your lying eyes, and it's so funny to see. I never believed it until COVID, just how much people will go along with nonsense because the group tells you to go along with nonsense. Sydney Sweeney's not a 3, even without makeup. Knock it off. I remember how angry we'd probably get with a white actor, voice actor. Yeah. Some woman just got, some unknown actress just got cast. She's playing, I forget what it was. It's like a half Jewish, half Greek character or something like that, or half Mexican and half Jewish character. And this woman, whatever, they basically bullied her out of the position. It's like, and I know it sounds hypocritical, but like a non-Jewish person could pass for Jewish. A non-Mexican person could pass for Mexican. And this woman whose name I can't recall, who's playing Helen of Troy, she is like a dark-skinned black woman. She can't pass as a Spartan Greek, especially one that was described with fair skin. And I've read contradictory reports that some people said that she was blonde, and some people. I always pictured Helen of Troy to look like a better-looking version of Deanna Troi from Star Trek. Like, am I wrong? Or there's got to be fair-haired blondes, because Alexander the Great was blonde-haired, blue-eyed.
Here's the funny thing is that I did a video probably 6 years ago now about Marvel and Disney casting for their internet shorts and for the what animation that they were doing for like Marvel Rising and stuff like that. They absolutely would not cast anybody for these voices for cartoons unless they were the exact same kind of person as the character. If there was if it was a Latino, it had to be Latino. If it was I think it was, if the character, I don't know, if it was an Indian character, they had to be Indian, all these kind of stuff. They absolutely, when it's their side, when it's on their side, they absolutely stick to it, and they will not budge 1 inch. But when it's on the other side, no, they'll switch it out every last time, as much as they can, make it as completely different as possible.
That's why I'll stick to my guns, that right now, white Christians are the most persecuted people in the world. I'm sorry. We're the marginalized people. We finally made it. We're finally the victims. Who wants to be a victim? That is just creepy. People who are proud of being a victim. If I was a victim, I wouldn't tell anybody about it, That is so bizarre, being proud of being a victim. I remember when that was something you didn't want to be. If you could take one power away from Superman, which would it be? Freeze breath. That always bothered me. How does Superman have freeze breath? You know, he absorbs solar radiation and makes heat vision. Where does the cold come from? That's why you said it was cultural appropriation. Yeah, it is. It is. You know, you want more black superheroes? Make up more black superheroes. You know, I don't. Ryan, I'm asking you directly in the chat. Is it insulting to just take a white superhero and just turn him black and say, "Here you go. That's yours. That's for you now." I wish we could depower Superman into gold. Yeah, I don't mind it with Superman. Superman is a Mary Sue. He's the most powerful, but I think out of all the characters, Superman earns it, and it makes it harder to tell a good, compelling Superman story, which is why you should earn the right to write a Superman comic. You know, it's almost like you need to like be the not you literally not like you have to be the best of the best of the best to write Superman because it's the best of the best of the best character. It's the first character. It's the character with the most gravitas, and I think he's probably the most difficult to write for because he's so powerful. For the longest time, I wanted to depower Superman. I like the John Byrne depowering Superman, but now I like him at super. He's Superman. He's supposed to be the best. But
like Jim Shooter always said, if you have a writer who wants to write Superman by giving him faults, get yourself a new writer.
Yeah. Being a victim is only desirable when there's cash prizes. Yeah. It just shows you that being a victim is not really being a victim anymore when so many people crave it and shout it because they realize there's value in being a victim. And if being a victim gets you stuff, then victimhood has no meaning, right? Paradoxically, not being a victim is now the new victim because not being a victim is the person who's getting the short end of the stick. So this whole victim culture has got to stop. It's ridiculous.
On top of that, I'll have to say with the whole beauty standard, I think that part of the problem is a lot of these leftists have mental problems. And one of the first things that happens when you have a mental problem is little things go by the wayside that you would normally do. And one of those things would be just upkeep of your appearance. And so that's why they look like haggard old shoes, half of them. And and they try to destroy beauty in any standard because they can't look anything even remotely close to beautiful because of that problem.
Yep, I agree. I dated a girl before my wife, and she was super liberal, and we fought all the time about it. And she was like, I own it. She goes, the liberals, they got a lot of mental problems, and I own it, and we own it. But and I stopped right there. I go, that's why they're liberal. And she was like, what? I said, because you have mental problems. If you don't have mental problems, then you're not liberal. And you know, you could just see the steam coming out of her face. John, I have the perfect climate. Superman versus Goku. I don't know anything about them, but you wouldn't be the first one to suggest that. I just said no because I don't know anything about it. But if you want to champion Goku, then we'll do it. Ryan Bank, John, absolutely. It's disrespectful to race swap and call it representation for black people. Yeah, that's why you created your original black character. Ryan here, he was on last night on my channel. He has a comic called Solo Legion. You could look up what you're not going to be able to put the link in here, but if you write out the word dot, put the link to your comic book in here. Let people check it out. Solo Legion. He's making up his own characters, making up his own, new superheroes, which is what we should. And it's one of the reasons why I can't. It's funny because I'm saying make up new black superheroes, and then Marvel made the Black Marvel or the Blue Marvel, and I hate that character because to me that was just like what a rookie does. I'm gonna make up a new superhero, and he's the best, and he's the most powerful, and he's the most perfectest, and he can beat the Hulk, and he's smarter than Reed Richards, and he's been around for 400 years. What has he done? Oh, he's done nothing because the government is racist. Okay, so the government is racist, so the most powerful being to ever walk the earth respected that and didn't do anything because the government said we don't want a powerful black man walking around. So could you hide for 400 years? Okay. You made your character stink. You know what I mean? Like, I think the Black Marvel's just a bad character because of that. Oh, he's the most powerful superhero to ever exist, but he sat around during slavery. He sat around during all these wars because the government's racist and said we don't want a powerful black man. So could you hide in a log cabin? Okay. You punked out your own character, and now I'm supposed to take him seriously? The modern way of writing Superman is to use him as a punching bag for other heroes to show how powerful they are. Yep. And to make them more morally gray, conflicted. Yeah. Superman is supposed to be perfect. He's supposed to be the example that everybody lives up to. Like you said, he's Galahad. He you know, I'm trying to homage him with my character, the Patriarch, and maybe I'm going a little overboard because I like to make it weaker. So I got to give the Patriarch like a real good definitive win because like in the tradition of Superman, the Patriarch sees the best in everybody. So it's kind of easy to fool him because he's maybe even though he's been a superhero for 20 years, he's still a little too trusting. Maybe I'm making him a little bit too trusting, but we'll see. Things will change. But I like that. I like that Superman sees the best in everything.
It's funny because I'll give you some inside baseball because we just have our subscribers here, so I don't really care about telling them some of these things. But the way that I developed my character Blue Skies, which is basically a Superman stand-in, was I always start from the basis of what if Amalgam Comics began and never stopped. And the thing was that I went from there, and then there's little things within DC's history, like the fact that if you look, I think it was in the 1960s, they did Superman 2025, and it was Superman's grandson that was the Superman at that time. And I went off of that, but off of the idea that, let's say, what if Superman, when he had the electrical powers, when there was Red Superman, Blue Superman, that's when he fathered the child that became the father of the Superman 2025. He would have electrical powers, not actual Superman powers. And I took so many of these Superman ideas and I threw them all together. It's like, okay, I'm going to make this because my Superman stand-in is a real ass. Just to let you know. And we went from there. I went from there, and I thought the lore for Superman had so many really good things that I could play around with, that I could make a good character out of just bits of lore that had fallen off the wayside.
My problem with Superman is, and this is a weird problem, I admit, but if Superman, his super hearing it's basically magic because he could hear anything on the planet. It's whatever the plot dictates that he hears. So Superman can hear anything. He can hear a kid screaming for help in Africa. To him, sit down to have dinner with Lois Lane is then selfish because he could get there. So for him to want to pretend to be Clark Kent, I know it's supposed to be he's grounded and he lives a normal, but if you can help everybody and you choose not to because you just want to, eat some dinner with your wife, it's like that's selfish. Like the Patriarch, he has a limited scope of powers. He literally can't be everywhere. He can't fly at these super speeds. His super senses only go like he could pretty much, if he concentrates and makes himself vulnerable, he could pretty much see a couple of square miles. But he can't, he's in Arizona. He can't see Texas. He can't see New Mexico. His senses don't go that far. So that to me makes it, and it's very strenuous, and it puts him at deadly risk to use the senses like that. But like Superman, Hey, look, there's a kid starving over here. You know what? I'm going to have a second helping of ice cream. So that's always my problem with the Superman. Like, I would tell stories of, like, not that he's getting detached, but like Lois is just like, I see less and less of Clark because he's always helping. And then the Superman movie, the fact that he could rotate the earth and make time reverse, like, why isn't he saving everybody? Why did he just save it for somebody that meant something to him? That was like a selfish use of his powers. Like, it, to me, that diminished Superman in a way. Like, oh, you could have saved my mother, but she wasn't worth revolving the earth. Oh, you're gonna revolve the earth when your love is killed, but not my love. So, I think for the safety, like this Blue Marvel, he's super powerful. He's the most powerful Marvel superhero, and he chose to do nothing because the government was racist. You diminish that character. Like, that's why I like limits on the superheroes. It makes them more human, it makes them more relatable, and it gives them an out. You know what I mean? Like, the patriarch needs to sleep. He needs to eat. He can't detect everything. He doesn't have regeneration. So when he gets beat up, he's going to stay home at the ranch for a week because, he needs to recover. Things like that. That's why I like Spider-Man. He's got real problems. He's got limitations that make sense.
As much as I dislike Mark Waid, that was his Kingdom Come story.
Yeah, it's great.
Really, really hit the nail on the head with ideas like that. It was basically the Flash vibrates at a frequency that he can be in multiple dimensions at one time and just does not stop running through the entire city, so there's no crime.
Right. Yeah, and that story, Kingdom Come, is so good. I wonder how much of it was Alex Ross and how much of it was Mark Waid, because Alex Ross also did the Earth X, the Marvel version of the same thing, and it was so good too. So I'm thinking Mark Waid probably gets more credit than he deserves. But like right over here, yeah, Superman could hear Jimmy's watch when he's in another galaxy. So why did but that little girl who died, got hit by the car, Superman chose to let her die? Like, I'm going back to the X-Men. So in the X-Men 112, they were fighting Magneto in Antarctica, and the volcano collapsed, and Beast and Phoenix got separated, and Beast and Phoenix thought the rest of the X-Men died, and the rest of the X-Men thought Beast and Phoenix died, and they're mourning, and for the next year they're separated, and they go back to Beast and Hank McCoy make it back to the X-Mansion, and they're telling Xavier, and Xavier just, oh, the X-Men are dead, packs up and leaves. And it's a great story, and it's heartwarming until you realize, aren't they both telepaths? Couldn't Jean Grey send out a probe and find, like, Xavier, it's established, and he has Cerebro. Why didn't he look and find out that the X-Men, they weren't in another dimension, they weren't on another planet, they were in Antarctica? He found Storm in Africa while he was in New York. I don't know. Antarctica can't be that much farther. So, like, it's a great story, but they had to. The plot dictated how the characters acted rather than the characters acted. You know what I mean? So, like, I that bothers me. That
plot device there, John. I don't know. I think this happens after that point because I can't remember the exact continuity, but it is the fact that Magneto changes the magnetic field of the entire Earth so that Xavier cannot even use Cerebro except in a limited capacity in the area where he's at.
That's later on. That didn't happen. Yep. Yeah. But if you remember, Xavier put on Cerebro, and that's how he found all the new X-Men. From New York, he found Nightcrawler. He found in Siberia, he found Colossus. He found Storm. You know what I mean? So Jean, like I understand. Oh, Jean Grey's like, they're dead. Okay, well, no offense, but I'm gonna look. Oh, he just took her word for it and left. But that's a perfect example of the plot dictating how like, I need the plot to go like this, so I'm gonna forget something.
That would be a really good retcon, John, for the whole Iceman is gay thing. If Jean Grey convinced him telepathically, she's been going around for so long, convincing people telepathically without even understanding she's doing it, is basically brainwashing people, because she's such a heavy telepath that when she tells people something, she basically rewrites their brain.
Right? Yeah. I told you about my redemption arc for Cyclops.
Yep.
Yeah. That he's been around telepaths his whole life. That he doesn't even know what's his personality anymore. Like every important figure in his life is a telepath. Xavier, the White Queen, the Goblin Queen, and Jean Grey. So I could see, like, do I even have a thought? What's going on? My personality changes depending upon which telepath I'm hanging out with. He goes to Alaska to get away, to heal, and like to go find himself, kind of thing. And then he finds out that his brain has scarred tissue inside of it from literally all these telepaths. Have I ever read Alan Moore's treatment for Twilight and Superheroes? Yeah, I stopped. Even though I'm an Alan Moore fan, there is a point where it's like, okay, editors have a purpose. And one of the stories, it was going to be like the Marvel family were all incestuous and stuff. It's like, okay, we're done. They're supposed to be children. That's too far. But yeah,
I was just saying, I left a comment on, I don't know, it was like X for Carl Benjamin, basically saying, I wonder if it's time to admit that V for Vendetta is actually an instruction manual rather than a cautionary tale, because we're getting to that point where the government in V for Vendetta looks like it might be something that the British would want right now.
Yep. England is a funny place, man. I mean, I think I was saying this to you. All of the individuals and the rugged individuals left and came to America, and all the conformists stayed. I mean, look at the American heroes. We got Batman, we got cowboys, astronauts. All of these, like, we believe in, like, the rugged individual, the hero against the overwhelming odds. And then who's the biggest hero in England? Judge Dredd. Who's a fascist oppressor of the government. That's like the little kids are dressing up as and pretending to be like. Here we're playing Superman. They got a Muslim king. What do you want me to say? They've been conquered. They don't even know it. It's a comic book or movie. You don't have to take it seriously, so we can have foibles, guys. I don't quite understand. They reject Infector, the X Factor judgment will prove that Iceman is not gay.
Infector was a good character for the one issue that she was in. It was it Strowman that did that, or no? I don't know. I don't think it was Strowman then. It was Lewis. Porter, what's his name? Oh, he's not Indonesian. Anyways, I always think of his name as Portobello, but it's not Portobello.
I can't quite remember, but I do remember in the Defenders. I told the story a few times. Iceman met a girl superhero named Cloud, and Cloud was a hot blonde who was basically naked, and she had like a ring of cloud around her boobs and the naughty bits down below. And then her superpowers, she would turn into this cloud and like have like rain powers and storm powers, stuff like that. And then when she reformed, she was male, and every time she would alternate. So for the first couple of issues, Bobby Drake is professing his love for this hot naked blonde that's parading around. And then she transforms into a cloud, helps him fight, turns into a male. And Bobby Drake's like, oh, what happened to the hot blonde? He's like, oh, yeah, well, I'm male and female. And every other time I use my powers, I transform. And he's like, I can't deal with this. We're breaking up. Now, if Bobby Drake was always bisexual, like they claim, this would have been the perfect consort for him. But no, because they didn't read these comics, which only gives me more proof that Jean Grey messed with his brain. I have a copy of The Lost Girls. I didn't read it yet. It's still in the shrink wrap. People are telling me not to bother reading it, but that just makes me...
I think you should just leave it in the shrink wrap, John.
That just makes me more curious to read it. Yep. Tony knows all the literature. Remember the 5th of November? And I have to laugh at all the liberals who are Guy Fawkes is their hero. It's like, oh, really? A guy who wanted to overthrow Protestant England and install a Catholic theocracy is your hero? Based. And the run, Iceman loses his memory and is instantly attracted to women. If you secretly get, yep. That's right, John. When Cloud turned into a man, Iceman freaked out. He wanted the female version. Yep. See, us old timers know. We know comic book history. That's why, if I was in charge of comics, I am the comic czar. And somebody says to me, I want to write the Fantastic Four. I'll be like, okay, what is the name of the Fantastic Four's mailman? It's just going to be a trivia contest. If you don't instantly say Willie Lumpkin, next. And then the next question is, show me a picture of your comic book collection. And then if you show me some Comicology, digital comics, next. I want to see long boxes with dog-eared comics. And, oh, this cover fell off. Oh, man, I read this comic so many. Oh, really? Tell me more. You got to know comic book history to write comics. I wouldn't presume to write anime. I didn't earn the right to write anime. Plus, the only reason Cloud turned into a man is because she was attracted to Moondragon, who now is a lesbian, by the way, because Peter David made her a lesbian. She could actually control if she was male or female. Okay, I don't remember. I thought it was she had to alternate, but she could change it. Well, edgy opinion here, but I think both V for Dead and The Watchmen are drastically improved in their film adaptations. I think The Watchmen movie is better than the comic. I thought the ending in The Watchmen movie is brilliant. I was actually like, oh my god, that's so much better. It dealt, because in the comic, Ozymandias didn't really deal with Dr. Manhattan. He kind of just hoped that Dr. Manhattan would go along with the plan, and then he goes along with the plan. But in the movie, he really, really makes it so that Dr. Manhattan has to leave the Earth, otherwise there's going to be a problem. I thought it was a better, cleaner victory that made more sense. And I wonder how much of that bothers Alan Moore, that the movie improved upon his comic. And again, I'm an Alan Moore fan. I know that RJ isn't. But I got to admit, better is better. What are my thoughts proposed on the adaptation of Jack Kirby's New Gods with the the multicultural cast was the least of the problems, and the problems in that movie are manifold. They fundamentally misunderstood the elementals, the Eternals. The Eternals, the Celestials were scientists from space that went to different planets wherever there was life or whatever. And I know that there's other things that happened since 2015 that I don't know because I stopped reading Marvel in 2015. But as far as I know, the Celestials came down to planets, and they took one group of the dominant life form and made them perfect. And those were the Eternals. And then they took another group of the dominant life form and made them imperfect, and those were the deviants. And then they left a middle group alone because they were the control group. They were good scientists, and that was the humans. And then they watched, and then they came back thousands of years later to see how their experiment ran. And at the end of the experiment, they're going to destroy it and start all over again because they for whatever their unfathomable reasons. Now the Eternals weren't slaves of the Celestials, and then they were own free, because that was the whole purpose of the experiment, to see what was better, perfection and order or disorder and chaos. And that's what they were doing. With the Skrulls, disorder won. With this another race with perfection and order. And in us, Earth, humanity won. The control group won. It's a cool idea. And then the deviants, each deviant is supposed to be completely unique. No two deviants look the same. And then in the movie, they took the same CGI model and used it over and over and over again, thus ruining the whole concept of the deviants. And then the casting. Yeah, Mercury, the god Mercury, is now a black woman. Yay! Makes no sense, because if you know anything about Hermes, he's also the god of erections. So the god of erections is now a black woman. Makes no freaking sense. They did no research. They have no. And then Hephaestus, the god who's married to Aphrodite, is now a gay man. Yay! You know, it's so stupid. It's just insulting. And they wonder why the movie bombed. What are my thoughts? I forgot about this, but it's kind of funny. It's like, hey, Alan Moore, you played yourself. You remember that? Did you ever watch the Chappelle Show, RJ?
No.
He had a skit called "When Keeping It Real Goes Wrong." Like, you know, somebody says something, and your gut tells you to get up in that guy's face and correct them, but then you realize the consequence. Like your boss, like he's the only black guy in an office. The boss says to him, "Right on," and in his mind, he's like, "When keeping it real goes like he should be like, what do you mean by right on? What is this? You know, I'm just a guy, and now you're gonna I'm the black guy now. I'm not just a guy." And then he ends up getting fired, and the next he's selling pencils in a cup in the freezing cold because you know he kept it real. What he should have did, and then they show what he really did was just like, yeah, right on. Just you know, accepted the condensation and kept his job. But this is Alan Moore. Kept it real, man. Oh, F you to the system. I'm going to give all my money to Black Lives Matter. Ta-da! Black Lives Matter is a criminal organization that squandered and money laundered. Good job, Alan. That really helped. Hey, Ryan Banks, how you were helped by this, right? You're a black guy. Obviously, Alan Moore money got to you, right? Because Black Lives Matter. It's such a joke. Alan Moore, you played yourself. Good job. Did they ever bring back Manslaughter or Cloud when they did the New Defenders? They brought back Gargoyle and Valkyrie, but Cloud was kind of forgotten about. And you think Cloud would be a perfect woke character. He's male and female. He could be they, them. But these people don't know Cloud because they didn't read any comic books before 2016. No, I mean, James Gunn is going to produce a New Gods film. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, so Hermes is also the god of Hermes, in my mind, Hermes is the god of information. You know, he's the god of thieves, messengers, heralds, I forget, storytellers and things like that. So in my mind, it's all condensed to he's the god of information. So in my world, Hermes is really the personification of the internet. Judgment War was another celestial story with the X Factor. They had the Chosen, the Eternals, the Rejects, the Humans, the Deviants. Yep. I lost respect for Alan Moore when the last volume of the League of Extragener was entire. Oh, really? I kept buying them, but I stopped reading. I think I'm like 3 books behind. If come on, man, that's just gonna ruin. That's just gonna ruin it. Is it really? Now I'm depressed. RJ, what else do you want to talk about? I've been talking way too long.
I'm starting to fade here, John. We're about 2 hours and 30 minutes.
I'm starting to babble. Yeah. All right, we'll call it off now. It's 2:30. We've been talking for 2 hours and 30 minutes, RJ. Anything you want to say before we go?
Not a whole lot. I'll just say that if you didn't hear me say this last week, I'll say it again. We're down to the last section of art for Crom the Destroyer. So hopefully we're going to be finishing that up and moving forward for the fulfillment of Crom the Destroyer. And after Crom is done, then I'm moving on to the other books that I've been working on for the last 2 years.
Oh, that is great. And it looks good. Nick Axe's art is outstanding. So this book is going to look so good. I can't wait. I'm excited. I know you had a rough time, but you're going to deliver it. I know Nick. He's out of his mind, but his art is outstanding, impeccable. This is going to look so good.
Yep. And yep. I shared that picture that we put up last week here of the new art, which is the Demon Woman, and people on Twitter are just like, I'm getting contacted by people who do a lot of D&D stuff or write for manuals or do illustrations. They're like, who did this? So yeah.
Oh, good. 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 That's good. I can't wait. You know,
I think I'm thinking about doing this. I'm not entirely sure I will, but um, I'm thinking that once I start the fulfillment of the campaign, I might actually start another campaign for the book itself to see if we can get any more sales. Just because it's been so long since I promised it to everyone.
I want to ask, any more plans for Thomas Valiant?
Yeah, well, Renzo's working on Thomas Valiant #2 right now. Slow going, but he's got so many other things to do. So, but yeah, he's working on that, as well as the fact that Artemis with Cardinal are two of the characters that show up in Thomas Valiant 2, but they have their own book as well.
Because I was thinking about Thomas Valiant, because I was driving home from work and I was like, oh, I gotta put up this image. I'll remove our faces. That's my character, the Patriarch, fighting RJ's character, Thomas. They wouldn't fight. They're on the same team, but it's comic book team up. So, but I was thinking about how powerful Thomas Valiant is, right? He could stretch and he could change his density, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right then and there, that is super powerful. And he has other abilities. I mean, he's also pretty intelligent. He's, but does he have any other abilities that I'm forgetting about?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but I basically made him the combination of Plastic Man and a slime or more, not really a slime, more of a gelatinous cube from D&D. So, but in Thomas Valiant #2, we're going to get to see a bunch of his weaknesses come to the forefront.
Okay.
Because he is incredibly powerful, but at the same time, he's got some real, well, not say hangouts, but some real detriments to using his power.
Because I love that. Because I remember reading the comic, and he put himself and stretched and hid underneath the cape of one of the J's, right? It was a J.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, come on, RJ. He's gonna notice 200 pounds of mass, and then you wrote down that he changes his mass. Like, good old RJ. All right. But that is such the ability to stretch and change your mass. That is such a good combination. I'm kind of fascinated with that lately. But anyway, I'm babbling because I'm getting sleepy. So check out Crom the Destroyer is coming soon, and then you still got the sign up for Fade to Blue. And Heroic Tales 2 is still available at Fund My Comic. That site that'll be live until I finish my new permanent store on Fund My Comic. So I'm going to keep that up. And Patriarch #1 is, I'd say, about 40% done. I'm gonna finish it before I even launch the campaign. Renzo said that he'll be done with the artwork he said the end of February. It's the beginning of February, so I hope so. That'll be great. And then I'm getting it colored as he's handing in pages. So there you go. So I'm hoping to launch the campaign. I don't know. I'm not even going to give a date because then people are going to hold me to it. Oh, we got Dave Brink here. Dave Brink, Genuine Comics. Check out Perfect 10 and Safeguard, which will be launching soon. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
See y'all later.
See you later. Thank you. Thanks for listening to me babble for the last 10 minutes.
Goodbye, kids.